The Speaker.
Member for Tobago East.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to my 5th budget debate. Madam Speaker, before I go into the national perspective and speak to the work of the ministry and also respond to some of the comments from members opposite, I would like to crave your indulgence and just speak to the people of Tobago East first. Madam Speaker, I was born in Tobago East, I grew up in Tobago East, and I live in Tobago East. And in my lifetime, this is the first time I've seen such a large investment in physical infrastructure development and human capital development in Tobago East. And I want to express my gratitude to this PNM administration and the Tobago House of Assembly for the work taking place in my constituency. Madam Speaker, since 2015, I would have remained on the ground, remained in contact with constituents, and I would have continued to adhere to the mandate of working with them and for them in transforming the constituency, in developing the constituency, and making Tobago East an even more beautiful place under the People's National Movement. Madam Speaker, in terms of safety and security, I would like to highlight some of the achievements in the constituency. Earlier this year, the Minister of National Security would have launched 2 high-speed interceptors in Charlottesville, and that was a direct response to concerns raised by fisherfolk about safety at sea and piracy. And with the launching of the 2 interceptors, it brought us a level of comfort to those people who work on the seas, or fishermen, and those people who also have been affected in the past by piracy. Additionally, in terms of safety and security, the Tobago House of Assembly, through TEMA, would have recently turned the sod for the construction of the Speyside Community Emergency Response Center. This center will be of great value to the people who live in Speyside and environ, providing first responder services in times of natural disaster. And again, I want to extend my congratulations to the THE and thanks on behalf of constituents. Madam Speaker, Roxborough, my birthplace, is transforming. Roxborough is becoming a little town, and I'm extremely proud to be the representative serving at this time with all the work going on in Roxborough. And I want to highlight under safety and security the fact that we will now have a brand new police station in Roxborough. It is almost to the stage of completion, and I'm positive that when the officers do move in, they will also bring a quality of service that would be down to the benefit of the people of the Roxborough district and, by extension, the people of Tobago East. In terms of health and wellness, I would like to highlight the construction of the Moriah Health Facility, which is ongoing, the commitment by the Secretary of the Division of Health, Wellness and Family Development to ensure that there's a doctor station at Charlottesville to ensure that the people in that community have ready access to health care. Madam Speaker, if you know Tobago and if you know Charlottesville, sometimes when we have bad weather and in times of natural disasters, Charlottesville could get cut off. So it's imperative that we have reliable, ready access to health care in that community. And I want to thank the Secretary for Health, Wellness and Family Development for indicating a commitment to ensuring that there's a doctor station in that community in the near future. Madam Speaker, I want to also highlight the construction of the Roxborough District Hospital. I remember when this current Chief Secretary took office, I would have visited him and had a meeting with the Chief Secretary and the Secretary for Health, Wellness and Family Development. And I asked him, I said, if you could do one thing for me, if you could do one thing for the people of Tobago East, is to bring a hospital to the constituency. And Madam Speaker, I was extremely proud to be at this turning ceremony. You see, as a mother, as a woman, I know how important it is to have easy access to health care. I remember one time one of my daughters fell and the clip she was wearing went through her forehead. And the time the health center was closed. When I went to the fire station, there was no ambulance there, and we had to rush to Scarborough. And I remember the fear and the panic. I remember when I was campaigning, going to communities such as Hermitage and Charlottesville and Lansome, and women saying to me, every time somebody's making a baby, the fear, would I get to the hospital on time? And I want to say to all the women of Tobago East, better days are coming with the construction of that health facility. We notice in Tobago that we are seeing a rising trend where a number of women are being affected by breast cancer and different types of cancers. And the Tobago House of Assembly would have recently established a women's health facility and pink room in Louisdor, Tobago East. Although it is in my constituency, it serves all of Tobago, all the women of Tobago. They have been providing sexual and reproductive health care, screening for cancers. And Madam Speaker, this week or next week, they're going to be hosting a bra fitting activity and a brunch for women to come, especially women who would have had to have mastectomy so that they could get fitted, because we know, ladies, that once we have on the right undergarment, we look and feel good. So I want to commend the Secretary for Health for bringing this service to the East and open it up to all the women of Tobago. Madam Speaker, the men weren't left behind and they weren't left out. I don't think many people know that the fort is actually in Tobago East, Fort King George, what we call up the fort. At that facility, the site was where the old hospital was located. The Tobago House of Assembly is going to establish a men's health facility and what they call a blue room, providing the same level of services for men in Tobago, where they could go and access prostate health care and mental health care and all of that, Madam Speaker. And again, I want to thank the THA for choosing Tobago East to be the place to establish such an important institution. In terms of public transport, recently, through consultation with PTSC and going to communities such as Palatuve and Castara and Lansome, the whole issue about access to public transportation came up and the need for improved services. And working with PTSC, we were able to reintroduce the Harbour Master service. That is a benefit to people who have to work outside of the community in Scarborough late at night and early in the morning. The Harbour Master service is bringing immense relief to people of Tobago East, and I thank PTSC for that.
What is it? Explain.
The Harbour Master service is a late service. Okay. Yeah. In terms of public transport, I want to highlight the fact that notwithstanding that we would have had to adjust spending because of revenue, the Tobago House of Assembly was able to continue providing transport for students in the East to go to school. Madam Speaker, my two daughters who are in first form and second form now, they benefit from it. They get up, they go down the road early in the morning and they get a bus or a maxi to go to school, and they don't have to pay for it. That service is provided to students in Tobago East and students throughout Tobago for free. Again, that is a benefit, and it demonstrates a commitment to human capital development and a commitment to building resources, building capacity in the constituency, and I'm grateful for that. In terms of infrastructure development, I want to highlight some of the work that's been happening in the constituency. In terms of coastal protection, I remember early in 2017, I would have received calls and letters from persons living along the Windward Coast about erosion taking place along the coastline. And I would have sent a number of letters to the Secretary for Infrastructure, Quarries and the Environment. And I remember at a stakeholder engagement forum, the Secretary said to the audience, he said, "My desk is inundated with correspondence from your MP. She writes consistently, she advocates all the time on your behalf." And Madam Speaker, I'm happy to see from the advocacy work the results. Just recently, they would have done work in Roxborough along the coastline, helping to stabilize the land and safeguard property, private property as well as business. The work has been extended all the way from up to Hanging Down and all the way down to other parts of the Windward Coast, stabilizing our shoreline and ensuring that our homes along the coastline could stand and that our children could continue to live in our communities and feel safe and comfortable. And I'm grateful for that, and I commend the work of the Tobago House of Assembly. Madam Speaker, recently, with the passage of Tropical Storm Karen, there's a particular river in Mason Hall that would have eroded its bank. And over the past few weeks, we saw where more houses were being placed under threat. Just today, I saw pictures of the Tobago House of Assembly doing the work there. I would have reached out to the secretary. They would have responded, and I want to let the residents of Sandy River know that the work is being done, and you could be rest assured that soon it will be completed and your homes will be safe. Madam Speaker, that is representation, that is performance, and it is all done PNM style. In terms of human capital development, I've seen in the constituency where a number of persons would have benefited from a number of programs made available through different ministries and departments of the government as well as the Tobago House of Assembly. Through the realization, through the public utilities reprogram, a number of households in Tobago would have benefited. Just last Saturday, I received a call from a constituent, and Madam Speaker, the little acts of gratitude, they give me courage, and they give me a sense of peace, and they give me purpose. When that gentleman called to say thank you, they came and they rewired my home, I felt really happy for him, and I felt proud as an MP, because there are many demands. People always want something, and there's only so much we have to go around. But when one person remembers to say thank you, it is indeed a good feeling. And I want to thank the Ministry of Public Utilities for responding to the needs of constituents in Tobago. I want to thank Self-Help for all the work done in the constituency and for all the individuals who have benefited. Tobago East is indeed transforming under the PNM. In terms of Tobago East, before I move off and go on to the national perspective, I just want to remind my constituents that the journey ahead, we have to do it together. Opportunities are emerging. Tobago East is changing. But we have to prepare ourselves to grasp the opportunities. We have to make sure we benefit from what comes to the constituency. If we don't prepare ourselves, if we don't prepare our households, if we don't prepare our children, then we have no one to blame if we are left behind. I want to urge all constituents to really get on board. Let us see how we could improve productivity in the constituency. Let us see how we could build a culture of innovation in our constituency. Let us see how we could change mindset in our constituency so that while the physical infrastructure development takes place, people in Tobago East will also develop, our mindset will change, and we'll also become meaningful contributors and active contributors to national development, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I just want to respond quickly to some of the comments on the other side. During the opposition leader's contribution, I noticed that she criticized the Minister of Finance's statement. The Minister of Finance would have said, corruption is no longer a feature of public transactions as it was prior to September 2015. Madam Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition has absolutely no basis to even begin to discuss corruption. Madam Speaker, using indicators under the Global Competitive Index for the periods 2010 to 2011 and 2015 to 2016, I wish to place on the track record the perception around corruption during the Kamala Persad-Bissessar-led UNC government. Indicators under the Global Competitive Index, where 0 is clean and 100 represents a high perception of corruption, I wish to note the following. In 2010 to 2011, under diversion of public funds, the rating was 81. In 2015 for 2016, in that same category, the rating was 124, a decline of 43 places. Madam Speaker, for the category Public Trust in Politicians, during the period 2010 to 2011, the rating was 103. In 2015 to 2016, it was 128. It went down 25 points. In terms of irregular payments and bribes, in 2020 to 2011, the rating was 65. In 2015 to 2016, it was 104. It went down negative 61. In 2010 to 2011, for the category favoritism in decisions of government officials. The rating in 2010 to 2011 was 77. In 2015 to 2016, it was 137. In terms of wastefulness of government spending, in 2010 to 2011, it was 75. In 2015 to 2016, 112. It went down 37. Madam Speaker, I want to remind you, the closer you are to zero, it means that your country has a better perception in terms of how people view you for corruption. And the closer you go to 100 and beyond, your country is viewed as highly corrupt. Madam Speaker, under the tenure of the Kamala Prasad-Bissessar-led government, we were always at 100 and above. The perception of corruption was very high in Trinidad and Tobago. So I don't see any way, anyhow, the member for Sipara could be speaking to us about corruption. Madam Speaker, again, I say she has absolutely no basis to even begin to discuss corruption in Trinidad and Tobago. Madam Speaker, the member for Chaguanas West would have said that the air bridge and the sea bridge collapsed. They're not working, nothing is happening, people suffering because of the air bridge. Madam Speaker, I don't think anybody here besides the member for Tobago West would have traveled between Trinidad and Tobago more than I did over the last 4 years. I am back and forth practically almost every single day. Madam Speaker, sometimes we might have delays, sometimes we may have our challenges, but Madam Speaker, the service, the air bridge, the sea bridge is nowhere near the word collapse. I have had the opportunity to travel on the JDLV as well as the Galleon's Passage. This service was exceptional. I've had the opportunity, Madam Speaker, to speak to constituents who boast of the fact that the service has improved. Madam Speaker, one thing that has changed significantly is the fact that there is less corruption on the sea bridge. Madam Speaker, in 2019, 528,162 seats were supplied on the sea bridge. 360,734 of those seats provided were utilized. This amounts to a utilization rate of 68.3%. In terms of births, 176,655 were supplied. And of that figure, only 117,524 were used. This is equivalent to a utilization rate of 66.5%. Madam Speaker, I don't see the evidence of a collapsed air bridge or sea bridge. It is not perfect. It is not perfect. There are challenges. But Madam Speaker, we can move between Trinidad and Tobago effectively and efficiently. And I want to commend this government for restoring the service, and even while restoring the service, ensuring that we were able to weed out corruption, Madam Speaker.
Yes.
Madam Speaker, I would now like to turn to the national perspective. I want to commend the people of Trinidad and Tobago for their demonstration of resilience, compassion, and resourcefulness. Greek philosopher Epictetus in his teachings said, "The greater the difficulty, the more glory in surmounting it. Skillful pilots gain their reputation from storms and tempests." Today, I stand with great pride and joy before this honorable House and the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, because I know that the storms we face as a country have proven that we, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, are indeed resilient. We are indeed a resilient people, Madam Speaker. It also proves, Madam Speaker, that this government is a competent, accountable, and result-oriented government. Considering the results, this government has performed favorably despite the myriad factors that threaten our success. When Epictetus presented the idea, the greater the difficulty, the more glory in surmounting it, skillful pilots gain their reputation from storm and tempest. He, in my opinion, Madam Speaker, spoke prophetically of this time. he spoke prophetically of Trinidad and Tobago in this time under this government with the member of Dugo Martin West as Prime Minister. Epictetus spoke prophetically of this time, this period, with member for Aruka Maloney as Minister of Planning and Development, and the Honourable Member for Dugo Martin Northeast as the Minister of Finance. Madam Speaker, we can boast of skillful pilots.
Yes, yes.
I want to thank them for successfully guiding this team and this country through the storms and tempests which emerged during the reign of the UNC-led PP government, and whose turbulent winds we had to withstand during the first 3 years of government. In 2015, the citizens were made aware of the impending storms that the nation would face due to declining oil and gas prices and the subsequent impacts. However, much like a skillful pilot, the Honourable Prime Minister warned of turbulence ahead and that citizens had to brace for impact. I remember when he said, tighten your belts. And Madam Speaker, the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago responded. They responded. Though everyone could see for themselves the raging tempest ahead, it was this government led by the Honourable Member for Dugo Martin West that stood face to face with the economic challenges and made the difficult decisions necessary that would guide the country towards a path of stability, a path that diverts us from harm's way, a path that thankfully has kept us out of the hands of the IMF. And I want to commend my Honourable Prime Minister and political leader. I want to commend the Minister of Finance, and I want to commend the Minister of Planning and Development because of their leadership, because they were able to pilot us through those turbulent times. Trinidad and Tobago is headed for a better, brighter future. As a country, Madam Speaker, we have seen some tumultuous winds beat upon many of our industries and families. However, we have done our distinctive parts as your ministers of government to provide social protection that will mitigate these impacts and improve the quality of life of our nation. I am steadfast in my belief that the achievements over the past months, as identified by the Honourable Minister of Finance during his budget presentation, prove that we are indeed on the right path. Trinidad and Tobago, under this PNM administration, is under a path of stability, strength, and growth. We are well on the way towards the creation of a new society, a society which will uphold the principles of accountability, transparency, integrity, and productivity. Madam Speaker, one of the things that I really love about my Honourable Prime Minister is the fact that he would encourage his team at all times in whatever we do, however we attempt to serve, to ensure that when our performance is held up to scrutiny, principles of accountability, transparency are always there. And I want to thank the Honourable Prime Minister for his astute leadership. And I want to commend my colleagues. I want to commend this team. We have had challenges, but we have all surmounted our challenges. We have been able, with our resources allocated, to do more with less. We have been able to touch every citizen, all sectors of society in a positive way. So I want to commend all the members on this side for their hard work. Madam Speaker, I would now like to turn to the portfolio of the Office of the Prime Minister, Gender and Child Affairs, and what we have been doing over the last period. While we have had a number of achievements that we could celebrate over the last 4 years, I would like to focus my presentation on what we have been able to accomplish during the last fiscal period. Through our strategic plan, which was harmonized with Vision 2030, specifically Theme 1, putting people first, and Theme 2, delivering good governance and service excellence, some of the most vulnerable, the nation's children, persons living with and affected by HIV and AIDS, women, men, boys and girls are more empowered, protected, and have access to help, support, and care they need. through various projects and programs implemented over the last 4 years and over the last fiscal year. In terms of child affairs, over the last fiscal year, through the commitment of the Office of the Prime Minister and with collaboration of other key agencies charged with the responsibility of care and protection of our children, several milestones have been achieved in developing and reinforcing the national child protection and well-being framework and machinery. We recognize that public education and sensitization are key to curbing incidents of child abuse. Through our child abuse sensitization workshops in the last fiscal, we were able to sensitize 91 bus and maxi taxi drivers. We were able to sensitize 30 coaches and 144 members of staff from the Student Support Services Division of the Ministry of Education. Madam Speaker, it is important for those persons who we call duty bearers, who have a direct hand in treating with the nation's children, to understand the signs of child abuse, to understand the Convention on the Rights of the Child, and to understand and respect the fact that children have rights, or children have rights. They have rights that need to be protected and promoted. And by providing a public education and sensitization workshops and going out and empowering citizens, we are helping them to become a very vital tool in our fight to end child abuse in Trinidad and Tobago. Madam Speaker, we are not where we want to be. One report is one report, too much for me. But we are on the road to ensuring that our citizens are better empowered to treat with the issues. We are ensuring that our boys and girls have the information so that they themselves can become champions in safeguarding their rights and helping to protect themselves. And Madam Speaker, I want to thank the Minister of Finance again for ensuring that every time I approach for funds, the funds were made available. I want to thank the Minister of Finance. I want to thank the Honourable Prime Minister for always ensuring that when matters of our children come up, that the support is there to ensure that we get the work done. Madam Speaker, 22 Student Support Service Division staff were trained as trainers, and they in turn reached approximately 100 persons. We decided in the last fiscal to develop a cadre of what we call train-the-trainers. By training individuals, giving them the ability to go out, we are ensuring that even though we may not have the resources, we have persons who have the knowledge to go out and pass it on. So the mere fact that we would have been able to train 22 persons, those 22 persons, as I would have said before, were able to go out and then impact 100 individuals, giving them the skills and the knowledge and the tools. And then that 100 persons would now be able to go out and impact other persons, and we have the ripple effect, where all of society would be touched by our work, even though the expenditure would not have been great, Madam Speaker. And I'm grateful for the support of the team at Gender and Child Affairs and for their hard work. And I want to commend them. 19,000 child abuse booklets were distributed in schools through school social workers and guidance counselors. Madam Speaker, we do a lot of work in-house, trying to develop information and promotional material to share. And through the creativity and the hard work of the team at the Office of the Prime Minister and the support of agencies such as UNICEF, we have been able to provide promotional material and information to disseminate throughout our schools. Those 19,000 child abuse booklets were used by the guidance officers and the social workers to help to provide children with information and knowledge so that they themselves can be able to then go out and impact their peers and impact their communities and impact their families. And Madam Speaker, little by little, we will see the change happening in Trinidad and Tobago. Some may call me an idealist, but I live in the hope that Trinidad and Tobago will become a better place where our children don't have to be subject to violence, where our parents would actually care for children instead of hurting them, where children in care who are away from the family will have the opportunity to get genuine care and not be taken advantage of. I live in genuine hope that the work that we are doing today as this government, as a team, that the work will actually reap meaningful results and it will be down to the benefit of all our citizens. Through a Child Protection League, which was implemented at a cost of $79,823.04, we were able to provide information on services and strategies for child protection to 700 students and 200 adults. We believe children should be empowered to play an active role in their care and protection. In this regard, the Child Affairs Division continued the rollout of their Child Rights Ambassador program in the last fiscal. At a cost of $42,360.83, this program trained children nominated to be ambassadors on the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. Over 43,863 persons thus far have viewed the educational videos developed by our child rights ambassadors. Madam Speaker, an investment of $42,360.83, training a small number of students every year as child rights ambassadors, giving them the ability to develop promotional information and tools on the rights of a child. We were able to have 43,863 persons in Trinidad and Tobago educated, and I want to commend the children. I want to commend the Gender and Child Affairs team for their work. During the last fiscal, the Children's Authority were able to manage the resources and scale up service delivery. As it pertains to providing adequate care and protection for all children, the Children's Authority has completed the following during the last fiscal: occupation and operationalization of the South Regional Office and Assessment Center. I remember when we had the opening ceremony, my colleague, the member for Naparima, gave a lovely speech. He was quite ecstatic, but then he came back to the house, I think it was a few months after, and said that we didn't do anything for him. So I want to take the opportunity to remind my very good friend, the member for Naparima, that we indeed stood together, we cut the ribbon together, and we together launched the South Regional Office and Assessment Center of the Children's Authority of Trinidad. Madam Speaker, again, Tobago was not left behind. Tobago was not left undone. I remember when I was given this opportunity to serve at this level, a commitment I made to myself and to people of Tobago is that whenever anything under my portfolio, if we advertise it as national, it will truly be national. Oftentimes, when I was younger, I used to get offended every time you see something advertised as national, and when you pick up the phone and call, oh, no, it's not available in Tobago, it's only Trinidad. And that was a peeve, and when I became a minister and when I became an elected representative, I made a commitment to myself. I said, if anything is advertised as national, then Tobago must not be left outside, because it is Trinidad and Tobago. Madam Speaker, it was a difficult task. We had our resource constraints, but we were able to deliver to the people and the children of Tobago, or Tobago Regional Office of the Children's Authority of Trinidad and Tobago. Madam Speaker, that is a significant accomplishment for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. No longer would all children have to journey across to get the necessary attention, care, and protection. It can be done right on the island. And I want to commend the Children's Authority. I want to commend the Board of Directors and the staff for their hard work and for the fact that they would have adhered to my call to ensure that as we open up offices and assessment centers in Trinidad, we include Tobago in this national development thrust. So congratulations to the Children's Authority. Madam Speaker, the Children's Authority would have completed 172 forensic medical examinations, and that is just a few examples of what they were able to do. But while I note the fact that they were able to complete 172 forensic medical examinations, Madam Speaker, that is an indictment on the people of Trinidad and Tobago. If you know what a forensic medical is when you have to examine a child who would have been abused or molested for evidence to present in court. And if we had to do 172 of those, the Children's Authority, Madam Speaker, then we have to take stock as a people, as a nation. You see there, Madam Speaker, hurt boys and girls grow up oftentimes to become angry men and women, who then go on to become perpetrators of crime. If we're really serious about a safe Trinidad and Tobago, a better Trinidad and Tobago, a progressive Trinidad and Tobago, then we have to treat our children better. They are the future of this nation. Our time will come and go, and it's the children that we abuse today who we are going to have to stay in their hands for care and protection. Samuel Barrett, I didn't disturb when you were talking. No. Let me go try to have enough time. We're going to talk after, right? Madam Speaker. We talk after. Madam Speaker, in terms of providing a nurturing and secure environment for all children, it is imperative that the right institutional and legislative framework exists. At the Office of the Prime Minister, we embarked on a series of 6 public consultations targeting both adults and children for the development of a national child policy. Madam Speaker, when we decided that we were going to do the consultations on the national child policy, I told the team that it is important for us to develop a child-friendly version of the policy document. It is unfair to develop a policy that is meant to impact a certain segment of your population, and they can't identify what you're presenting to them. And with the support of UNICEF, the team was able to develop a child-friendly version of the policy. So while we had consultations with adults, we had consultation in South, North, and Tobago. We had the same level of consultation with children, again in Tobago, South, and North. And the information coming out from the consultation would have enabled us to be able to refine the draft policy document. The final cost of the consultations amounted to $145,250, and we were able to engage 218 children and 188 adults. The final version of this policy returns to the Cabinet at the end of this month for approval to be laid in the Parliament. Madam Speaker, when we were doing the policy and the document and the consultation, I was told that this is a first for our area of the Caribbean, and I'm really proud that Trinidad and Tobago is included in the way. And I'm happy that we have a framework to guide the way in which ministries, departments, agencies, the way our country would frame interventions geared towards child care and protection in Trinidad and Tobago. And again, I want to commend this team at the Office of the Prime Minister, Gender and Child Affairs, and commend all our international development partners who have worked with us to ensure that this policy document is at a stage now where soon it will go to Cabinet for approval to be laid in the Parliament. On May 17, 2019, the Office of the Prime Minister, in conjunction with the Trinidad and Tobago Registered Nurses Association, launched its 3rd cycle of the caregivers training titled the Caring for Children in Institutional Residences program. This initiative, Madam Speaker, seeks to provide caregivers and potential caregivers with the requisite skills for employment within a community residence. Madam Speaker, this training program is very important. You see the days of just any and everybody feeling they could go into a community residence and work? Those days over. To work with children, you have to have the right attitude, you have to have the right aptitude, you have to have the right skills. Madam Speaker, we would have made certain changes to laws, we would have introduced our regulations, etc. But we know that it's important for us to build capacity of persons who are desirous of working with children. And when the opportunity came up for us to partner with the Trinidad and Tobago Registered Nurses Association to develop a certificate program, we grasped that opportunity and we partnered with them. I am happy to report that in just this last fiscal, a total of 9 males and 39 females were trained as caregivers. Madam Speaker, 9 males and 39 females just in the last fiscal were trained. So we have 9 more men now with the right training, the right attitude, and the right skills, ready and available to work along the rest of the team engaged in caring for children in an institutional setting. Madam Speaker, since we would have started a training program in 2016, I'm happy to report that 90% of the persons trained under this program would have gained employment at the various children's homes. And I want to commend the team, because it's not just about numbers and about creating opportunities, Madam Speaker, but ensuring that while we crunch the numbers and we create opportunities, that our children get the best possible outcome. And by having a structured training program in place, we are providing them with a cadre, a pool of persons who we know will do better, who we know will improve the service. To further improve the quality of care of children in our community residences, in January 2019, we increased the payment per child for children who are in our community residences. Madam Speaker, in the past, some organizations would have received a subvention, some would have just survived on the bare goodwill of corporate Trinidad and Tobago, and then some would have struggled through. But what we recognize is that if we are responsible for the care and protection of children, we have to ensure we provide the resources that every child who is placed in an institution will have the opportunity to ensure that their psychosocial needs are met. Madam Speaker, I remember when I approached the Honourable Member for the Gomati North East, Minister of Finance. We had a little back and forth in terms of crunching the numbers. But Madam Speaker, in the end, we got the approval. I would like to report that for children under 1 year of age, assistance moved from $900 to $2,300, a 15% increase. For children 1 to 3 years of age, the assistance moved from $1,100 to $2,600, a 136% increase. For children 4 to 6 years, the assistance moved from $1,500 to $3,000, a 100% increase. For children 7 to 9 years of age, the assistance moved from $1,700 to $2,400, 41% increase. For children 10 to 14 years, it moved from $1,800 to $2,200, a 22% increase. And for children 15 to 18, it moved from $1,900 to $2,300, a 21% increase. Madam Speaker, we were able to do more with less. We were able to demonstrate compassion, care, and consideration for children who don't have the benefit of living in their natural birth homes. We have been able to demonstrate as a team that we are indeed putting people first and nurturing our greatest asset. And I want to commend, again, the Minister of Finance for making the resources available so that we were able to impact on all those children who now have the opportunity to have their psychosocial needs better met with the funding available to them. Over the last fiscal year, Madam Speaker, 380 children under the age of 18 benefited from these increases. Payments dispersed by the Office of the Prime Minister totaled $988,236. Madam Speaker, $6,988,236, benefiting 380 children under the age of 18 in our various community residences. And Madam Speaker, what we would have done to also ease the burden on those homes operating outside of the state, we would have worked.
Member for Tobago East, your original speaking time is now spent. You have 10 more minutes to wind up.
Okay. Madam Speaker, we would have also partnered with the Ministry of Public Utilities to ensure that the homes could get a rebate on their water rate as well as their electricity. Madam Speaker, I will quickly move to gender affairs. Gender development is imperative for realization of Vision 2030 and the SDGs. The Gender Affairs Division of the Office of the Prime Minister leads the state's response to issues of gender and constitutes an integral part of the government's decision-making process in addressing development. The National Policy on Gender and Development, which was laid as a green paper in March 2018, has been approved for use by Cabinet throughout the public sector to address gender and development. Using the policy to guide the division, a number of projects and programs have been implemented. In the last fiscal, the United Nations Women Foundations program was introduced in April 2019, to be exact. Training was provided through the program for 16 females of the White program in Tobago, 8 male students in Valencia, and 9 girls from St. Dominic and St. Jude's also benefited from this training program. 25 men and women in the caregiver training program were also able to benefit from the UN Foundation program. Madam Speaker, the Barbershop Initiative targets males aged 14 and over, bringing them together for a male-to-male discussion about behavior, attitudes, and negative gender stereotypes. A total of 584 male students from 4 secondary schools participated in the Barbershop Initiative in 2019. In the last fiscal, we were able to train 76 gender focal points in government ministries and state agencies. These focal points form part of the national gender machinery and assist with our gender mainstreaming efforts. We've attempted to treat with the issue of gender-based violence using a number of strategies. And Madam Speaker, I want to highlight what we have been doing recently in terms of using the performing arts to help to disseminate information and create discussion around gender-based violence and issues of gender. We would have partnered with Dr. N2 Pearl Springer and ICANN to promote Shades of Aishi, Every Woman's Story in constituency. Madam Speaker, I have been able to go to the play in Mova as well as in my own constituency, Tobago East, and the emotions, the discussions, the discourse that it evoked, I am seeing where this particular product can become a very powerful tool in helping to change the way we view gender-based violence, the way we discuss issues around gender and development in Trinidad and Tobago. And I want to give my colleagues the commitment that the plan is to bring it to every constituency. I know, member for Princestown, you already wrote it and told me that you're ready and willing when we are able to. Every constituency would benefit from Shades of Aishi. It can make a difference. Naparima, I have 2 minds about helping you out because they don't tell me thanks after. Madam Speaker, I will quickly now move to the National AIDS Coordinating Committee. The NAC aims to empower the people of Trinidad and Tobago to lead healthy lifestyles by ensuring that citizens have information to make decisions and facilitate behavioral change. Madam Speaker, in terms of the work of the NAC, because I'm running out of time, what I would like to highlight is the fact that the NAC has been able to draft our policy document to guide the way we manage the response to HIV and AIDS in Trinidad and Tobago. And again, we're working closely along with the Ministry of Health to ensure that we meet our targets for 2030 or 1990 targets, Minister of Health. Yes. Right. By 20, yes, we are working along Ministry of Health to ensure that we reach those targets. In terms of looking to the future, Madam Speaker, in ensuring that the various portfolios are achieving their mandates, the following highlights areas that we are going to focus on. In 2020, moving forward, we want to ensure that we strengthen our disaster risk reduction preparedness through the work with international agencies to ensure that whenever a disaster does happen in Trinidad and Tobago, that our most vulnerable are better able to respond, that we have systems in place to cater for our children, or women, or boys, and or girls, Madam Speaker, so that they have a better outcome at the end. We also are looking at the Office of the Prime Minister's Central Administrative Services to improve our asset management by introducing RFID tagging. We would have introduced in the last fiscal RFID tagging on our files to ensure that files and documents don't get lost and people could get their, when they retire, they don't have to be looking all over. We're trying to improve systems and streamline systems at Office of the Prime Minister's Central Administrative Services, Tobago. Considering the impacts the OPM and its implementing arms are having on redefining the social landscape of our country, it is imperative that every effort must be made to sustain the gains and to continue to navigate the journey ahead. At the Office of the Prime Minister, I can attest to a team having the drive, passion, and commitment which enable us to rise to the challenge. I firmly believe that those who are quietly and humbly working behind the scene to bring about much-needed social transformation are capable of reaching the targets set. Madam Speaker, as set out in Vision 2030 and the Sustainable Development Goals and other standards, we know the task at hand cannot be achieved without the support of our fellow citizens. In this regard, I implore my fellow citizens to join with us on this journey to Vision 2030. Citing Christopher Tambu Herbert's 1989 edition of the journey, this journey will not only continue, but will also be steered in the correct course until we reach where we want to be. On behalf of the Prime Minister, I want to welcome all to come on board and join us on this journey as we chart a course for the betterment of our country and the creation of a new society. Many hearts, many voices, one vision. Together we aspire, together we will achieve. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to rise to make a modest contribution to the debate on the Appropriation Bill 2019-2020. Madam Speaker, may I begin by congratulating warmly and proudly colleagues on this side of the House for the contributions they have made in the budget debate since Friday last. We have had colleagues on this side of the House speaking to policy, to programs, to ideas, to vision. And I congratulate all my colleagues who have spoken on this side. Madam Speaker, colleagues who spoke really took a chapter, a few pages, out of the comprehensive presentation made, which I believe is a first in the history of Trinidad and Tobago. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, the leader of the opposition presented in a strange way, not so much an opposition replied as an alternative development agenda. And at that time, without any election in sight, because an election, I think, was declared during the speech. With no election in sight and no date named, the leader of the opposition had the courage, the imagination, and the vision to lay out a plan. To tell the country squarely, these are the problems, and this is what we intend to do. That took courage. Because the leader of the opposition also told the national community, I now invite you to comment, to debate. So the leader of the opposition came with her plan. They came pelting stones after. They came ready to knock down everything said. But it is very critical that the country at this time understand the position of the opposition and the leader of the opposition. I think persons are generally fed up with the tit for tat. I blame you, you blame me. The majority of persons in this country want to know, what will you do to deal with the crisis, to address the problems, and to bring hope? And you could not have had a more hopeful, optimistic presentation than the member for Siparia, and we congratulate her and her hard-working team. Madam Speaker, it is with more than a bit of pleasure that I speak today with pride and humility to deliver my response to the budget statement. This budget, many call it a light bulb budget. This budget, Madam Speaker, and I agree with the member, you know, when the member for Siparia finished, there was a response from Laventil West. He was at his nastiest best. And I took note of that response. I will speak to that. But I agree with him in one regard. It was in a painful and diabolical way a work of art. Because the minister, in speaking the Monday before in the budget presentation, there was something Shakespearean. There was something Napoleon. There was something Caroni Central Orwellian about that presentation. When he was finished, they all jumped in the air. It was Orwellian. To congratulate him in that way for his budget presentation, which had several points of deception, which I will come to later. It was Napoleon because a couple days after, hours after, I believe, telling us about the great work that you are doing to alleviate flooding, he was caught, elevated somewhere in Port of Spain, ducking water. Madam Speaker, that was Napoleon in that sense. And it had a bit of Sir Walter Scott in that his objective was to weave a tangled web. To deceive. Oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive, and we will come to that. So it was a work of art. We must conclude. Madam Speaker, if ever a depressed country needed inspiration, it is now. If ever a crime-ridden society needed a beacon of hope, it is now. If ever this country needed the United National Congress, it is now. Our republic is unrecognizable from the paradise we left in September 2015. Today people complain that they have rain, but they don't have water. We complain about the hopelessness and the despair. Madam Speaker, the statistics, the Minister of Finance gave us his accustomed and familiar national growth rhetoric. Today, the member for Caroni Central was at his wit's end to understand the figures and suggested with some validity that the minister had taken the CSO and move it home. So in the morning, he prepares cereal, milk, egg, and just cook up the figures as he go along, because we have nothing else except the Minister of Finance. Madam Speaker, under the regime of Diego Martin West, this society has a life that is nasty, brutish, and short. There was a time when our people had jobs, when they had food, when they had water, when they had schools, when they had shelter. That time was prior to September 2015. Madam Speaker, the population can't wait for a general election. Many citizens in this country tell you, whether you meet them in the Junction in Debe, in Point Fortin, in Arima, in the Queen's Park Oval, they say we can't take this suffering much more. People feel genuine pain in this nation today. The morbid confession of the Minister of Finance, who uttered a sick boast that serious crimes were done, but more innocent people were being killed every day, suggests that this government is out of touch with reality. In his 3-hour, 20-minute presentation, he gave no hope, no assurance, no vision. Did not suggest that he had a clue as to what to do to save this nation. After his lengthy presentation, the economists, the financial experts, the accountants, the civil society leaders all asked for more detail after he spoke for 3 hours and 27 minutes. They couldn't believe. Citizens were just happy that this is his last budget, although he has threatened otherwise. I'm almost tempted to say that we have survived, but we have a few more months to go. Madam Speaker, the minister had neither rhyme nor rhythm. It was uninspiring. At the end, he raised his arms like Sugar Ray Leonard, punched the sky. His colleagues in an Orwellian moment pounded the desk, only to discover that he bowled a no ball. You would think it was a coincidence that the minister's budget speech was timed so well with the release of the Hollywood blockbuster thriller, The Joker. Indeed, Minister Imbert's descent into madness surpassed that of the failed comedian Arthur Fleck. Regrettably, the member for Diego Martin Northeast is real, and his reign of terror will last for more than 122 minutes. The minister's presentation was disturbingly familiar. 90% of the measures in the budget were repeats and rehash, often with some obscenity. There were places in the budget where the minister repeated himself in the same budget presentation, Madam Speaker. He repeated not only the annual promises, but he now called for a book.
Obscenity.
Member for Oropuch East, please continue.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, through you, I assure the member for St. Joseph there's nothing to fear. I will not look in his direction. The minister repeated promises even in the document, suggesting that several persons have been writing, and the minister did not read the document in its entirety. He did not read it. So there was this concentration on repeating promises from last year, and in one case in national security, I'll come through later, it is the exact wording that they repeated this year. And of course, topping off everything with bulbs for all. When our administration under the member for Siparia gave laptops to all, they today gave bulbs for all. They practice to deceive. So they suggest a little crumbs here, a little crumbs there, honestly believing that they can pull off a political Stockholm syndrome, where you oppress, you abuse, and then you show some benevolent dictatorship, and the people will love you. But Madam Speaker, a key part of this was this trickery, which the Guardian newspaper pointed out on Sunday. That trickery involving CPEP workers and URP workers. Madam Speaker, member for Carinies and others have spoken to this. I will just reiterate one point. The government felt because it is an election, they must announce CPEP and URP. So he announced an increase in the minimum wage from $15, which the partnership government set, $15. We raised minimum wage twice. He announced that, and because the member wanted to tell URP and CPEP workers, I'm doing something for you, he had to call their name. Madam Speaker, quickly, I remember once on a flight coming from London to Port of Spain when we were in office, and a flight attendant came up to me and said, sir, I have something special for you. So I said, yes, of course, I accept. And a pastry came. I felt so good. Madam Speaker, when I look around, everybody in the cabin had the same pastry. But at first, I thought this was only me getting this wonderful pastry. The minister said, CPEP workers, I have this for you. URP, I have this for you. And the raise he gave them was less than the minimum wage. So 7,000 CPEP workers are receiving $15 an hour. The minister said, I give you 15%, but the minimum wage raised by 16.6%. So what did you do? When he got caught, the member for Siparia exposed him. Exposed him. On Friday last, minister from Lavantel West said, no, they can't understand what we're talking about. So now they start a whoop. They said, no, the increase of 15% is on the new minimum wage. So now they have to tell the people whether the increase in URP and CPEP is 31.6% increase, because you will get the new minimum wage and 15% on that. But if you do that, you crush the wage differential. You crush the wage differential, because then the lowest paid worker will get more than the wakaman, the checker, the field officer. So they can't be thinking of that, but they got caught because they did not think it out. It is nonsense, utter nonsense. And the minister went on to insult and embarrass an academic writer and speaker and so on. And this is their pattern. You see, Madam Speaker, there's something deeper here. Regimes like these, they intimidate, they harass, they undermine professionals, intellectuals, academics, trade union leaders, civil society leaders, so you mute them. Yes. So they are scared, because the academic is generally not a politician like us. So, we take a little talk and so on, we wake up the next day. But you're hoping that they will hide, and they will shut up, and they will not be critical of you. And that is the threat that the minister posed. So that the minister can tell us in his winding up or before, what exactly are you giving CPEP workers? Is it? And you decrease the allocation. And Dr. Raghunath exposed them that they decreased the allocation by $21 million. So you come to increase labor costs with a decreased allocation. And then, playing smart with foolishness, indicate it says it's numbers and everybody know we can have environment and appropriation, supplementation and so on. But when the national community and the international community get these yellow books, this is what they base their analysis of your economy on. This is what. So why did you give us this in the first place if it means nothing? If it's mere numbers, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, he got caught with that. The daily paid, pension for daily paid. We clap, they hit the table and so on. What is happening here? The minister is now starting a process of negotiations with the worker organization, asking them, so what all you want? How all you want this pension to be arranged? Nothing is arranged. That is a matter that requires process, a management committee, dialogue, negotiations, and so on. That kind of pension scheme. Mama guy again, because what they will do, I understand what they will do. As it is now, when the daily paid, most of the daily paid go home at 60 years. They wait for 5 years to get old age pension. And that is adjusted with NIS in mind because they would have paid NIS. But the minister, what the minister said, pension for you, if that is not negotiated and settled, a contributory pension, it is the same thing they had before, a pension at 65, which is old age pension. So again, having negotiated nothing, you set out to deceive daily paid workers that pension for you. When is this pension going to come? You know, this pension matter started in 1994 under Patrick Manning. This is why the age of retirement, Couva South, went down in 1994. We had done the work with former Minister Larry Hawaii and others, and we had completed that by about 75-80%. Like the Ramaitres Hindu School, you never complete it, Arima, whether it's the pension or the school. So that they will take time, their term of office will finish, and there will be no contributory daily paid pension. That is a point. Madam Speaker, and I want to make the point because, you know, they'll get up after and say, well, we have something against the environment and bulb and so on. Giving bulbs to people is not in principle is not bad because you want to save energy and so on. But that is a matter for ministry, a division in a ministry, working with private sector, working with groups. It cannot be that you're going in West Moorings and go up with a cart and give somebody in West Moorings and say, how much bulb are you using? 20? Look, 20 bulb. So it is just there to create that impression. So they increase the salary for OJT and fire all the UTT workers. That is how they operate. And there's a narrative coming from that side. Now, it's very interesting, this narrative. They are saying as they go along, there are several issues all ministers repeat, you know. We are so happy that we have been steady the ship. Sure. And first they said not a man lost their job. They started that. When man and woman lost their job, they said we are happy to say, notwithstanding the 63,000 who lost their job, that not one gazetted public officer has lost their job. So the 63,000 people this morning are happy because they, you know, what happened is that they're not gazetted. So they would have still been in UTT, they would have still been in all the ministries, they would have still been in Petrotrin if they were gazetted. And they don't know what gazetted means. That is the trickery that this government comes with. All of them repeated now they're not gazetted, so they're working. So that they spend the money on castles while the people eat cake. That is what they do. They spend the money on castles. And I want to deal with another myth quickly. Deal with another myth quickly. You know, all of them are trained to say something. When they reach in power, there was no money. There was no money running on fumes and so on, all of them. They're trained. They have that mantra. They got a book and they read it. The deception. When we left office, Madam Speaker, when we left office, other speakers alluded to it, Madam Speaker. When we left office, we left them with a stable economy, with reserves, Madam Speaker. And the member for Caroni Central set it out properly. I think he did everything told us about that. I want to repeat that. But I want to ask them, where you all get money for $200 million to upgrade Skinner Park, $2.5 million US for Michael Bolton and Tony Braxton in Tobago, $100,000 to Mind Your Business seminar. Where did you get $115 million for the Diego Martin Stadium? $777,000 for BMW for the THA. A new headquarters of $60 million for Minister Moses. $32 million to restore Whitehall. A zoo project of $60 million. $7.6 million for Hilton swimming pool. Where you got that from? You got a hand from Susu? You got that from Susu? This is their spending and their waste since they came into office. $3.5 million on a CL Financial sexual harassment charge matter. They paid. Roman bill $59,000. $92,000 rump in Tobago. Massey Communications $225 million. Lobbyists in America $18 million. Petrotrin Consultants $63 million we paid to close down Petrotrin. $110 million for the Brian Lara Stadium, where you cannot play an international cricket match yet in that stadium. Madam Speaker, I could go on and with the Soca on the Seas, $3 million. But the one paintings, $3 million. So that was the next Susuhan brought in that money. You didn't get it from the last administration. The Prime Minister residence in Tobago, $20 million and counting. And counting. Golf course, $0.25 million. Madam Speaker, I can continue, but it's too much and I have limited time. Madam Speaker. So, about 10 pages of that. But they have this mantra. They left us with no money and we had no money to do this. Had no money to finish school. No money. No money to finish community centers. No money for food card. But had money for all of that. Golf course, paintings, castles. That is what they had money for.
Carols and castles.
Today, Madam Speaker, they have said that the government cannot run a refinery, but they want to open daycare centers. Yeah, you can't run the refinery. What business? That is a matter that you work with civil society, the social organizations, and you run daycare centers. So, Madam Speaker, this year budget, they didn't tell us anything about the game changers. Game changers, Madam Speaker. Dragon gas, gone. Sandals, gone. Housing, gone. And next year, PNM, gone. Because they know, as we know, they cannot finish any large-scale project in 10 months or so. You may not even start. I have a gift for these ministers. I've bought 30 yards of ribbon, and I'm now going to give them. Because all they will do is cut ribbon whole year. And I will get somebody to buy a fork for them, because that's the next thing they will use a lot in the coming days. I won't say anything about that. And a shovel. They're only digging up the land and cutting the ribbon. Nothing will be delivered by any one of them. You see, Madam Speaker, I will speak to some of these issues. The last speaker before me made an interesting point about the work they're doing in Tobago and so on. And we remembered in Tobago, it was under Shoguana's East, education centers developed, schools, training facilities. Madam Speaker, the PNM talk, the UNC works. In housing, Madam Speaker, I don't think today, apart from a few houses here, 10, 5 or so on, they have actually taken over the role of Habitat for Humanity. Habitat for Humanity is a great organization that builds a few houses every year for underprivileged people, and we support that. Government is meant to build more, to do more in the sector. They boast, they give away 71 houses here and 25 here. Madam Speaker, under the partnership administration, we were giving out 100 homes per week. Huh? That is it. So while the PNM talks, the UNC works. Under the CPEP, we talk about environment. We pick up 50,000 tons of garbage a month with CPEP Marine. They talk, we work, Madam Speaker. And they come now with the audacity of talking about corruption and so on. Madam Speaker, the other point I make quickly, UDCOT. and I make this on behalf of residents, and I'm shocked that San Fernando East and San Fernando West spoke in this debate and didn't mention anything. UDCOT has moved from the premier project manager of the Caribbean under the Partnership Administration to organize our FET. I think they're building swimming pool, 1 or 2 swimming pool, UDCOT, and they're organizing FET. They have a July 14th, Madam Speaker, 2019. Would you believe UDCOT puts out an ad in the newspaper? The event, we're encouraging you to apply and contact us if you want to have wedding, meeting, parties. This is a government project manager inviting people in an ad to contact them if you want to have a party, a wedding, a fete. You know what they have done? They have turned the Brian Lara Stadium into a fete center. And 15,000 people in Pointe-à-Pierre, San Fernando East, San Fernando West cannot sleep in the night because they fete, they make the noise and disturb people. I met an Irish gentleman on the weekend, and he told me it was the only thing he wanted me to say is that elderly people in the night when the weekend come. You know, long time you used to look forward to a weekend. These people cringe and they dread when the weekend comes because they cannot sleep. They make noise the whole night, and UDCOT is encouraging that at the Brian Lara because they close Skinner Park, so all the fetes coming there. Yeah, they are fet promoter, Madam Speaker. The lady from Tobago East spoke earlier, remember, and said member for Siparia did not have authority to speak on anti-corruption matters and so on. I think she was saying that. Now, that you could say that, and your Prime Minister went to a joint select committee and announced that there was corruption in the tendering and processes for a boat. He announced it. He didn't wait for us to tell him that. He did it himself, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, I just want to update the record because somebody need to. You see, Madam Speaker, 1 year ago, I raised certain matters in this Parliament. I raised certain matters. And Madam Speaker, they beat me from pillar to post. Madam Speaker, I was encouraged to go out on the pavement, on the road, in the river, and in the sea. They put me everywhere in the world, Madam Speaker, and they beat me. The Prime Minister, I just want to remind the national community, Madam Speaker, when I finished making my presentation on that occasion, headlines the next day read like these. Roodal Moonilal raised allegations in Parliament October 9th. That is 1 year and 1 week to this day. Prime Minister responds in Parliament, I have no US bank accounts. Prime Minister says documents and email stated in allegations are false. October 10th. Prime Minister has confirmed that the other party, Rawlinson Rowley, the man on the receiving end of the email, is indeed his cousin. The next day, Dr. Rowley's cousin says the email was sent to him, but by accident. October 11th, admitting that the bank account number is real, CNC International Trading has said they have a business relationship with a South construction company, contracting company. Fake oil in the fake oil scandal. October 12th, and many articles, I would stop here. October 12th, the checks I had raised and so on that day. You see, Madam Speaker, the Prime Minister made a commitment, and I don't want to get in it quoted extensively now, but the Prime Minister said the next day he was furious. Well, he is always furious, but he was mad. And he said he calls upon the police commissioner, the financial intelligence unit, and it's his attorney general to investigate what Moonilal said in Parliament and make the findings public. It is in the newspaper. 1 year and 1 week later, where are the findings? Where are the findings? The Attorney General spoke last week, Friday. I didn't know he was taking off. And in the last year of the administration, well, he could go to France. Madam Speaker, in the last year of the administration, they will all run up miles. They will run up their air miles, so when they demit office, they could go to cricket free. So, Madam Speaker, the Prime Minister said, I'll ask these agencies, I demand them investigate that and make the findings public. I have nothing to fear. 1 year and 1 week later, not one Police, Financial Intelligence Bureau, Attorney General have made any findings public. Not one. And when that was happening, Madam Speaker, I could tell you, when that was happening, because I made the allegations, I had a duty, Madam Speaker, to continue on that matter, because you know why? I raised the matter. And if they would not investigate, I would investigate.
Very good.
Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, I know my colleagues are now on the edge of their seats. And I assure you, I will not run afoul of the standing order. I spent a year in another place with that. So I assure you. But I know you will be on the edge of your seat. Madam Speaker, I investigated because they won't. The only thing I could not investigate is something in another jurisdiction because I did not have that kind of authority, power, or institution. But certainly in this country, we can investigate. Madam Speaker, the checks I raised, Republic Bank has confirmed that they are real and they have the video of the person making that. Madam Speaker, the emails are real and I could tell you without doubt that I am a person, anybody could call me and talk to me. I'm afraid. Indeed, I will tell you, I have met the cousin named in that and had discussions with him, Mr. Ralston Rowley, a gentleman. And he tells me, he says, Rudy, I really got the thing by mistake. It was in the spam, but it was not meant for him. I said, if you say so, it's so. He said, I have no business in that. I said, okay, if you say it's like that, I can't doubt you, Madam Speaker. I didn't doubt him at all because I thought that he was speaking, Madam Speaker, in an honest manner and so on. And nothing is wrong with that. Madam Speaker, when we did further research, we found that there were we got the date of emails sent. We got text messages suggesting that those things are real. So they never proved that what I said was wrong, was malicious, inaccurate. You can never prove that. Madam Speaker, I have in my hand, which I will not show. I will not raise and show people anything again. I have in my hand, printouts of, snapshots of text messages and so on, confirming this matter of coordinates and banking coordinates to be sent, and who it is to be sent to, and what is to be wired, and so on. So I don't want to go there. Madam Speaker, there are two matters related to that I will go to, certainly. Huh? I want to go to eagerly. How much time left? Check the time of normal time. Yeah. Madam Speaker, it came to my attention. I was connecting the dots because they left me stranded in the middle of the river. Because they would not investigate, I had to investigate. Madam Speaker, when we dig deeper, there is a pattern emerging. A tangled web. We try our best to connect the dots with our limited capacity because we are not, institutions of law enforcement are not available that way. Madam Speaker, there's a transaction, and I call no name. And nobody will entice me to call names. Madam Speaker, there's a transaction emerging, and I have in my hand the email which I will read, and I assure you, I know everybody is now on edge. It is not a fake email. It is from one David Goldberg to Vidya Devki Singh at yahoo.com. We have it here. And the email is from David Goldberg. I must tell you, David S. Goldberg is an attorney at law in Maryland, United States. That is near Washington, isn't it? Yeah. Is it? Yeah. David S. Goldberg is a United States attorney, and he's writing on February 23rd, 2015 at 1:19 p.m. And he says, Dear Mr. Devki Singh, Mr. Devki Singh is an individual who has been named in that fake oil scandal. He is a former candidate for the PNM in Siparia, a close friend of the Prime Minister, a colleague, this man called Devki Singh. Dear Mr. Devki Singh, attached, please find a copy of a receipt of outgoing wire transfer to Formula One, trading in the amount of 550,000 United States dollars. Wow. I repeat, please find a copy of the receipt of outgoing wire transfer to Formula One trading in the amount of 550,000 United States dollars. He's sending it to Mr. Devki Singh. So a lawyer in America, Maryland, is sending this. Thank you for your cooperation. If you have additional questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. It is David Goldberg, dsgoldberg112@gmail.com. Madam Speaker, and a wire transfer is attached. Now, again, a wire transfer is not a bank account. So people mustn't jump up and say, I have no bank account. It is not. And they know it too. Madam Speaker, the wire transfer speak to this money being deposited in an account, Formula One, in Georgetown, Guyana, where they operate, Madam Speaker. And there are all the information concerning that, including additional instructions and beneficiaries. Madam Speaker, I say no more. The beneficiaries, if known to you, will again blow your top. It is a Wells Fargo account, 550,000 United States dollars, wire transfer to Guyana Formula One. Madam Speaker, attention, Vidya Deuki Singh. But I'll come to our next name related here. 3 million Trinidad and Tobago dollars. February 23rd, 2015. 3.5. Madam Speaker, there's a CC on this email that had me thinking and led me somewhere else. You see, out of office we can still do. It is copied to one Ed Kane. It's eckane443@gmail.com. Now, who is Ed Kane? Who he, as we say? Madam Speaker, when we did our investigations, Ed Kane is a player, like a lobbyist almost, working with Mr. Deuki Singh on projects. Whether the projects are the trading in fuel, whether they are involving different companies, but they operate United States, Guyana, and, Madam Speaker, Suriname. And that took me to Suriname. Madam Speaker, luckily, when I spent my time in Holland, I did learn some Dutch. So they could not have escaped me. Because one of the things they would do is try to use another language. Madam Speaker, Ed Kane is known to Vidya Deuki Singh, and they have been involved in some business involving fuel trading and so on. Madam Speaker, this Ed Kane and Deuki Singh work together. Formula One is a real company. They were transferred. There's a wire transfer here. Now, I assure members you cannot hide these things. These things you can't hide that way. They don't erase. You know, you can't ask a party member working in a bank, go on the computer and punch it out. They don't erase like that. And Madam Speaker, I come now to a matter that is related to this. You see, Madam Speaker, the Minister of Finance announced in his budget the sale of the refinery. He did it in a minister's statement earlier, but then comes in the budget and repeated more or less the same thing. You see, Madam Speaker, the minister and his government thought, wrongfully, they would set a fox trap for the opposition. They thought they would set a trap where if we raise any issue, we don't like the workers. If we raise any issue, we don't like OWTU. If we raise, we against locals. And I have a feeling this government actually named that company patriotic, you know. Because for 4 years, they're accusing us of being unpatriotic. So, what do? Madam Speaker, in the opposition, we have said we are happy, we are pleased that if any local company or group of companies are to be given the refinery, we wish it would be local. Madam Speaker, we do not want the OWTU to fail, Madam Speaker. We want them to succeed. And I call on the OWTU today, do not be conned by this government. Do not get mamagai by the government that may have some other interest in this matter that they will not tell us at this time. You see, Madam Speaker, 15 years ago, more or less, something happened in this country that led to almost the collapse, and I think the collapse of the oil sector, was Malcolm Jones, Ken Julian, and Lenny Saith. Politicians before us were in the House, in the Red House. Our predecessors generally. Some of us were there, but a bigger group. They raised their voices when they saw what was happening. That administration ignored us. And today, all gone because of the decisions that they took. What is our job as the opposition? Do we stay quiet? Do we just go in a corner and stay quiet and say, we don't want to say anything because they will say we don't like them? No. Madam Speaker, we have a serious duty. We have taken an oath to be fair and to conduct our duties without fear or favor. Madam Speaker, refinery is $5 billion plus. As it is now, it belongs to all of us. We own the refinery at this time, you know. This is our property, the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And they have mortgaged the refinery and all other properties and assets there. And secretly think they could get away with it. Madam Speaker, this is a refinery in which between the Manning administration and the Siparia, member for Siparia administration, do you know this country invested $1.6 billion in that refinery between 2006 and 2013? $1.6 billion US invested, And today, they tell us we shouldn't say anything about that. Don't talk about that. 11 billion TT dollars, as if that is the amusement park in Arangua, Savannah. That is a refinery owned by the people, and we should raise our voices on the matter. Madam Speaker, some time ago I read in the newspaper, it was in October 2018, about a company that was supporting in this matter, a company called Sunstone Equity. Sunstone Equity is operating out of Suriname. And they were identified early as a private investment firm to help in the bids. Madam Speaker, when I heard this company was in Suriname, I immediately asked some friends of mine to check it out, tell me. Yes, and I praat in Netherlands, but I asked them to please tell me what is happening with this company, because normally if you're going to buy a refinery, you think always that, it will be some companies known to you, but not companies that are unknown. Madam Speaker, would you believe that this company named Sunstone, that is identified to assist in purchasing and private investment and so on, this company is operating out of a building in Suriname that is a lodge for visitors. The office is behind a lodge. Like a travel lodge where you go and you sleep and you get up in the morning and move on. In the back, they have an office here. It's called Sunstone Equity.
They're like Bridgman.
And they are like Bridgman before with the boat. The same thing like Bridgman. They are operating in Suriname. Madam Speaker, the principal of that is someone called John Ewald van Dyke. John Ewald van Dyke. So we check him out again. He's Dutch-Canadian. And Madam Speaker, he's spoken about this matter. He's real, I must tell you, he's real, because he has interest in this business and so on. When you look, John van Dyke is really a political economist writer. He writes books like Jeffrey Harrod and others on political economy and support progressive organizations in doing their international research work and so on. He has written a book called Casino Capitalism. This person is behind Sunstone, who we expect will get $700 million to purchase a refinery. Could you imagine that?
You have to get mad by that.
This person is involved, is a writer, is an author. He's not a businessman of anything we know, but is an author who is the head of Sunstone that has an office in the back of a lodge, a travel lodge in Suriname, operating there, and is entering into deals with this government, Madam Speaker, to purchase refinery. That is a serious scandal about to happen. And Madam Speaker, I got the document in Dutch, and I have it in Dutch, and then of course I got someone to do it in English. Sunstone Equity has share capital and so on of 500 Suriname dollars, 5,000 Suriname dollars. Share capital, 5,000 Suriname dollars. Issue capital, 1,000 Suriname dollars. Paid in capital, $1,000. It was established, Madam Speaker, I pray that this is right. I hope it's translated properly. But the same date, actually. It was established on January 18, 2018. No. January 2018, time of commencement, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this company established in 2018 a commencement of their offices, but let me be absolutely correct. Date of creation of the company, when it was registered, was the 17th of September 2015. So 15, they register and commence January 18, 2018. And this is a company involved, Madam Speaker, in providing financial support for a multi-billion-dollar bid. $5 billion bid run by one gentleman who we have said is an academic writer of some kind and moving. Madam Speaker, when we did further research, Madam Speaker, I have in my hand, of course, Madam Speaker, the research material that we received elsewhere. Madam Speaker, would you believe that Mr. John Van Dyke visited Trinidad and Tobago?
Yes.
He was here. But how he came here? Who brought him here? Madam Speaker, you will not be surprised to know that Mr. John Van Dyke came to Trinidad to find and be in the company of one Mr. Vidya Devki Singh. Mr. Vidya Devki Singh brought him here, Madam Speaker, to have meetings concerning business with stakeholders visiting a contractor in Penal. visiting a contractor in the south of Trinidad, Madam Speaker, visiting contractors in Penal. Madam Speaker, I have in my hand, which I will not show, I have in my hand, Madam Speaker, I have in my hand pictures, Madam Speaker, which I will not show. Madam Speaker, I'm showing myself. I will cross my hand because I don't want to even pick it up. Madam Speaker, in what is either an office or somebody's home, there are 3 persons signing documents here. And 2 persons are very clear. They bear a great resemblance to one Mr. David Abdullah, Mr. Ansel Roger, and the 3rd person indeed has been identified as John Van Dyke. Signing documents here and shaking hands and signing in either an office or house, we do not know. It may well be in a house in Penal that they are signing documents involving serious negotiations with Sunstone Equity. Madam Speaker, I call upon the players today. Please don't call me on the pavement and think no more. Please. I call on the players to just indicate to the public, when did this meeting take place? Where did this meeting take place? How this meeting take place? Why this meeting took place? What are they signing? What are they signing? And could I ask them to confirm whether indeed Mr. Vidya Devki Singh took the picture that I have in my hand? Madam Speaker, the gentleman, Mr. Van Dyke, was also in Trinidad. We have a photo of him in a car here with other businessmen and so on, moving in Trinidad. Madam Speaker, it's easy to clarify this. All they have to say is, well, the picture can't be fake, I doubt, is that they were signing, I don't know, a collective agreement or something like that, or they were signing some other document that had nothing to do with refinery.
Speaking a new bargaining unit.
It was a Susu plan. But you see, Madam Speaker, we cannot take lightly that the Minister of Finance announced, and I get back to the budget, that the only company that said they would pay cash up front is Patriotic. Yeah. And they were paying cash. Were they paying cash from Sunstone? And if all the companies, he said, the only one had cash was Patriotic, and that's the only one we don't want cash from. But that is a serious matter.
Member for Urupuchis, your original time is now spent. You have 10 more minutes to wind up.
Thank you very much. Madam Speaker, I'm told that these materials, Madam Speaker, where I got it from is actually the internet. And they are now available on the internet for others to see. That is where I got it from. Madam Speaker, we need clarity as to what is this gentleman doing, what deal, where. And we have confirmed in our own way, because as I said, we can't leave it for the government, that this gentleman has been a visitor, regular or otherwise, to a contractor in South Trinidad. And that contractor is indeed the premises of AV Drilling. And Madam Speaker, is it that there is some backhand way for persons who have been accused of fake oil and other offenses? Is this a backhand way that they will now claim the refinery? Wow. After the taxpayer put $11 billion into the refinery, they will now claim it and look to make a profit, a good profit, because the rumor down on that side, Madam Speaker, where we operate and where we come from, people are already telling us who they think own the refinery.
All in the family.
All in the family, Madam Speaker, so that there are questions to answer. And when they are, and you see, Madam Speaker, I've connected the gentleman from Sunstone. Sunstone has a relationship with Formula One. Formula One, recipient of cash to go to beneficiaries who I will not name. But the names are there. Why Mr. Goldberg is sending an email to Mr. Devki Singh and copying Mr. Ed Kane?
With a golden handshake.
Madam Speaker, it is the web that they are producing, Madam Speaker, and infiltrating Trinidad to get their paws on the refinery. That is what they want. Madam Speaker, They must also tell us, because see, we have made the connections now to that matter, that wire transfer. But don't forget there was a wire transfer issue raised last year involving, Madam Speaker, a wire transfer in Doral, Florida, a bank. Madam Speaker, I am told, Madam Speaker, that the money is still there, Madam Speaker. I am told that the money is still there. Madam Speaker, on the internet now, they are saying that John Van Dyke of Sunstone Equity was hired by the OWTU to look into the viability of Petrotrin refinery and says the facility is very valuable. Well, I could imagine it is. Madam Speaker, the gentleman, you're getting it live and direct, and by nightfall, we will confirm, well, I know, but others will confirm where that picture was taken, and they were signing deals. It is a done deal, Madam Speaker, and they come to fool. Madam Speaker, the wire transfer money that we spoke about last year is still in the bank in Doral, because after the Mark bus, nobody brave to go in the bank. Madam Speaker, I was tempted to go in Florida and say, I'm video kissing, I come for my money. But I can't do that. I was tempted to do it, but I can't. And I won't do that, Madam Speaker. I won't. Madam Speaker, I won't. I don't want to get myself in more trouble. But the wire transfer is still there. And right through the year, Madam Speaker, when we tried through different means that are lawful, to begin with, are lawful, to get information from the bank's position when contacted, the bank's position is, of course, they cannot breach clients' confidentiality. And this has to be done through institutions of law enforcement in one country to another. Yeah. But the Attorney General spoke early in this debate, said nothing. He told us follow the money. And I would have thought the Attorney General, and connect the dots, I would have thought the Attorney General would have triggered the mechanism to go to Doral in Miami and just ask the bank, hello, some person in Trinidad raised this matter. We think he's not telling the truth. But could you just confirm that this is not true? Through the mechanism of the Attorney General's office and the American Institute's law enforcement in the state of Florida. That is the easiest thing to do. We help them with legislation to do that, Madam Speaker. Yeah. In 2018, Madam Speaker, it's from 2018, yes. In October 2018, he confirmed his interest in the viability of the refinery. And he was hired by the OWTU. And with this link now to Vidya Devki Singh, to AV Drilling in South, one wonders what has happened there. And we raise the issues. Because you see, Madam Speaker, the Prime Minister cannot say it's not his friend now. He can't say it's not his friend now. I am not accusing any member of Parliament here of wrongdoing. All I am saying is that they could not at this time tell us about that bank wire transfer in Miami last week. And I just give you another one from the state of Maryland. In a bank now moving to Georgetown, Formula One. Formula One linked to Suriname, operating in Suriname with a diesel trade business that was operational when Petrotrin was alive. Wow. When Petrotrin was alive, there was a fuel trade taking place involving persons involved in Petrotrin and Suriname. A man was placed under house arrest in Suriname because of that deal went sour. Mr. Devki Singh knows about it, and he now comes up in a deal involving the refinery. Oh, what a tangled web we weave. You see, Madam Speaker, they can't tell me what I'm saying is not true, because we also have banking documents from First Citizens Bank in Pinal, Madam Speaker. I never raised this before either. But there are banking documents from First Citizens Bank in Pinal suggesting that we have another transfer, electronic funds transfer, between AV Drilling Oil and Gas Limited to Doral, Florida, Regions Bank with SWIFT code and everything. So look how it connects now. Pinal to Florida, to Washington, back to Guyana, Suriname, with beneficiaries that are identified in Trinidad. 2 beneficiaries of Trinidadian descent, known to many. But, Madam Speaker, the government says nothing. And during the year, on another time, I only have, I think, 3 minutes or 4 minutes left. Madam Speaker, during the year, I was able to get some immigration records somehow. I don't know how. But do you know the Prime Minister traveled regularly because he's building miles now. So traveled regularly, attending all type of things. And there were persons involved in this matter who, when you look at their immigration record of travel, Madam Speaker, almost match the travel and the flight of officials of government. Including, Madam Speaker, a manifest from a private jet. A private jet left Piaco to, of all places, Caracas, Madam Speaker, and synchronized all the time with government officials traveling. What we are yet to trace, because we can't, because see, once you go in another jurisdiction, you are in a way out of my grab. But one day, maybe the will of God and the will of Superior, one day we may be in a position to investigate. You see, Madam Speaker? One day we may be in a position to track a private jet from Piaco to Caracas and whether that jet connected the passengers to Holland, where they went for another conference. We'll be able to connect all the immigration data to persons involved in this scandal. And that is why they will not easily relent and let go power. Because they know when those of us on this side get to that side. Madam Speaker, last year, when I finished talking last year, the member for Aruka, Maloney, stood up and read a search warrant. Remember that? Today, when I finish, they might stand up and read the sentencing. And you know, when they were pointing fingers at our side, they forget to look at their side. They forget to look at their side. And I have a tip. I have a tip for the member for Aruka, Maloney. I have a tip. When you live in glass houses, you must change your clothes in the basement. That's my tip. Because the member for Aruka, Maloney, likes reading warrants. And I pray to God that no trouble will befall her, that she may not have to read her own. Madam Speaker, I pray to God, because we are colleagues and we do not wish people bad. Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, in winding up, there are questions I have raised. I'm sure colleagues opposite, I encourage them to get the answers. And if we are wrong and you can disconfirm us, no problem. But if we are right, then you should hide. Madam Speaker.
Member Karim.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for affording me this opportunity to contribute on this very important debate. But first of all, Madam Speaker, let me add some thoughts with respect to the contribution that was made by my friend from Oropouche East. Madam Speaker, I sat listening very attentively to the member from Oropouche East, and oh, what a feeling of sadness that came over me. It was a feeling of sadness and longing that is not akin to pain, but it resembles sorrow only as the mist resembles the rain. Madam Speaker, his contribution was vacuous, it was hollow, it lacked substance. In other words, Madam Speaker, I describe it as a monstrous alarm of cacophony. A lot of noise, but meaning nothing. Madam Speaker, on one occasion, when I was teaching communication at the college that I was principal of, a group of sixth form boys, I stumbled upon a book by Jane Austen, Pride and Prejudice. And I want to just share some thoughts, because the member of Oropouche East obviously wished to say something very sensible, but he knew not how to say it. Madam Speaker, his contribution lacked cohesion, in his presentation. His supporting evidence was poor. The points did not connect. And he used evidence that he could not substantiate. Oh, what a disappointment that was. But let me, Madam Speaker, deal with my business. And in dealing with my business, I would want to deal with an allegation and
Wait a minute, sir. All right, so I know we had a very spirited contribution, but I'd like us now to resume our decorum so that I can hear the Minister of Education. All who are not interested in hearing, as I say, we could test out how the water in the reverse osmosis cooler tastes. Arima.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. From the very beginning, I want to refute something that the member for County East has been touting over and over. The fact that he has built 106 schools during his tenure as Minister of Education.
Yes.
I begin by saying that is false, it is not accurate, it is not true. And I have evidence before me this afternoon, once again, to show the falsehood of what he has been saying. For example, he has stated that he was responsible for the construction of 66 ECC centers. Let me make the point, first of all, I make a distinction between an ECC center and a school. However, the evidence coming from our planning department of the Ministry of Education shows that construction on 29 of these centers started before 2010. Construction started while this government was in office. And for a further 24, site identification and selection began as far back as 2008. Madam Speaker, when we look at it, obviously, we can ascribe to him only 13 that was built during the 2010 to 2015 period. In terms of primary schools, Madam Speaker, let me say that there are two types of primary schools that have been under construction. There are the traditional primary schools, and there are the primary schools that were built, what we refer to as prefabricated structures. 17 by way of the traditional construction and 14 prefabricated schools were included among the 31 that the member of County East was claiming. Of the 17 traditionally built schools, 13 were started by the People's National Movement government prior to 2010. And advanced planning on 2 of the 14 prefabrication ones were done. In other words, when he lays claim to 31, obviously that number is not correct. In addition to that, Madam Speaker, I have made this point over and over and over. One of the schools that he has claimed to have built is the Tunapuna Government Primary School. I have stated over and over that my secondary school education was at Hillview College. And to get the train from Tunapuna to take me home, I had to pass by Tunapuna Government Primary School. Today, that school is still there. Obviously, the member for County East could not have built that school when that school was constructed long, long time ago, years ago.
He said he construct that school?
Yes, he said he constructed that school. And, Madam Speaker, in terms of the secondary sector, he is claiming that he has responsibility for constructing 13 secondary schools. Well, if you want to say 6, fine. But each of those schools was constructed long before 2010. 6 of those schools. And the evidence is here. And, Madam Speaker, today is a day when, again, we have to refute the falsehoods that are fostered upon us by the member of Caroni East. But in dealing with my contribution, Madam Speaker, first of all, I want to pay tribute to our Minister of Finance for the splendid contribution that he has made in the presentation of the 2019-2020 budget. I also like to pay some tribute to our Minister of Planning and Development for the assistance that she has given, and also to the Prime Minister and my parliamentary colleagues who all work together to ensure that this budget is one of the best budget presentations that we have had for a long time. In my presentation, I also want to thank the staff of the Ministry of Education who have assisted me in preparing this contribution. I want to say thanks very much, and I noticed some members of staff are here to give me support. At least 4 of them are here this evening. I want to say thank you very much.
Never came for Tim. Never came for Caroni.
Need all the support.
Madam Speaker, again, another point that has been made consistently, and it was made by the leader of the opposition in her presentation when she said that we took away laptops. Again, let me put the matter straight. Laptops under the previous administration were given to students. However, there was a lack of planning. There was absolutely no planning where this was concerned. In other words, there were no attempts to train teachers. In the schools themselves, the infrastructure was absent. And therefore, the laptops could not have been used as a teaching tool. Instead, Madam Speaker, what was done was the laptops were used as toys. In addition to that, the laptops were of very poor quality. And I can attest to that because I have relatives who were given laptops that did not last more than a month.
You said that 4 years ago.
It's still true today. It rings true today, and I can understand the pain that the member of Caroni East feels because what they did was totally out of sync. You see, the problem here is that the former Minister of Education knew absolutely nothing of education. Granted, he's a good gynecologist. He has large hands. He's a good gynecologist. And you can understand. But he's a total failure where education is concerned. With respect to GATE, Madam Speaker, we were forced to restructure GATE after a task force was appointed to look at GATE in its entirety. What was found? That there was tremendous wastage in the GATE program. What was found was there was program hopping, where a student was hopping from one program, moving from one program to the other, at tremendous cost to the government. The program was adjusted, and therefore certain prescriptions were put in place so that students could access only one program. This has resulted in tremendous cost savings to the government and the people of Trinidad and Tobago. In fact, as I said before, when I attend meetings of the University of the West Indies, either in Jamaica or Barbados or Grenada, what we have been told over and over again is that the GATE program that was instituted by the government of Trinidad and Tobago is one of the best things that has ever been done throughout the Caribbean. Madam Speaker, let me pay some attention to some of the positives and some of the gains that we have been able to achieve in this Ministry of Education. First of all, I think it is important for me to begin by talking about indiscipline and violence in our schools. When we took office, Madam Speaker, schools were overrun with violence and indiscipline. There were endless complaints by teachers. In fact, some of them were fearful of entering their classes. In fact, I know some schools, teachers would come to me and tell me that there were students who spent the entire day in a classroom gambling. And in fact, the situation was so bad that persons from outside would borrow a school shirt or a school uniform and come into the school to gamble because, in their words, the money was good. That was the situation that we met when we took office. And nobody can deny that because the evidence is there. Madam Speaker, Mr. Deputy Speaker, of course, all of us know that we have had tremendous successes with respect to the reduction of violence and indiscipline in our schools. In fact, if I can quote the result of our research, when we look at 2016 and we compare it with 2015, there was a reduction of over 25% in terms of violence and discipline in the secondary schools and 15% in the primary schools. And when we look at the following period, the reduction was almost along the same lines. In other words, there has been a tremendous decrease in violence and in discipline in our schools, something of which we are tremendously proud. Today's figures, Mr. Deputy Speaker, would show that there is less than 1% of complaints of indiscipline and violence in our schools. I think I need to make the point that in our school system, this Ministry of Education has the responsibility presiding over 700 odd schools, more than 700 schools in the education system. And with that, we have in excess of 250 students. And now we have found ourselves in a situation where only 1% of our students in our schools, 700 odd schools, are exhibiting undesirable behavior. And I can give you the assurance, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that in the not too distant future, this percentage will go down even more. Because we have put things in place in our schools. It didn't come just like that. We have put things in place in our schools to ensure that our students adhere to the rules of the school, that our teachers are there in the classrooms, that our principals provide the necessary supervision, and that our curriculum officers and school supervisors visit our schools on a regular basis so that they can monitor the activities that go on in our schools on a daily basis. While on that, Mr. Deputy Speaker, let me state that the education system that exists today, the Ministry of Education, is really an amalgam of three ministries that existed during the period 2010 to 2015. We had the Ministry of Science and Technology, we had the Ministry of Tertiary Education, and then there was a separate Ministry of Education. These three ministries have come together under one name, the Ministry of Education. And while that presented certain challenges, we have been able to successfully overcome these challenges in almost every aspect of our operations. In our Ministry of Education, we have a division, the Student Support Services Division. I have heard certain people say that this division is understaffed and they require more persons and so on. And I've countered by saying I have absolutely no problem with the staffing of the Student Support Services Division. And I repeat that today. In that department at the Ministry of Education, we have more than 700 workers, including guidance and counseling workers, school social workers, and workers engaged in special education. We have in the guidance and counseling section 254 guidance officers. And these persons go around to the schools. Some of them are stationed in the schools, and they assist the students in particular, but in other instances, they also assist the teachers in ensuring that the proper guidance is given to our teachers and our students. One of the things that we are very happy about is the establishment of learning enhancement centers. In time gone by, when a student was suspended, that student remained at home if his parents knew about it. That student had absolutely nothing to do. But with the learning enhancement centers, those students are required to attend those centers, and there they come under the guidance of the guidance and counsel officers. And up to yesterday, when I met with the parent and a student who ran afoul of the school rules, he was able to attest to the fact that the few weeks he spent at the Learning Enhancement Center did him tremendous good. And today, he was ready to return to school, a changed person. It is something that we are very pleased about. It has been working well. In all our districts, we have these centers that cater for these students. We have in the special education section, we have teachers, personnel who are trained, certificated in things like diagnostic or diagnostic specialists, and also we have teachers' aides. There are many persons in our education system, many of our children, who come to school and they need special attention. And we have been able to provide teachers' aides to some of those students. It is something that we are working on, and we intend to develop that more as time goes by. In the area of children with special needs, that is one initiative that we are pursuing with rigor, because it is our intention, it is our mantra that every child must have an opportunity to access a quality education. And in spite of the fact that a student might suffer some disability, we must do everything possible to ensure that that student is given all the necessary assistance. And towards this end, we have started a series of programs that are geared towards the assistance of children with special needs. In November next month, we'll be having a series of focus group consultations where we'll be inviting all the stakeholders, particularly those who have an interest in children who have disabilities or who have learning disabilities, and we'll be happy and willing to hear the advice that they are prepared or they will be prepared to share with us. And when that is done, we'll go back on the drawing board and we'll come up with plans and programs that will assist. One of the things that we have done is that we have earmarked 3 schools in each of the education districts that will cater for children with special education needs. And therefore, those children will not be left behind. Not one child must be left behind. It is important, therefore, that we use a lot of the resources that will become available to us to pay more attention to our children with special needs. That is something that we will be paying a lot of attention to. You know, some of those students are afflicted with things like attention deficit hyperactivity disorders and autism. Now, autism is something that is sometimes easy to identify, and sometimes it is most difficult to identify, because along the spectrum of autism, there are those who suffer from autism on a minor scale, and there are those who suffer from autism on a greater scale. And we are going to pay special attention to those children who suffer from autism. And some of the resources that are now available or that will become available to us, we will be expending a lot of those resources so that we can provide assistance to those children. Where this is concerned, a needs assessment exercise was completed during the last academic year. And during that exercise, 238 students were identified who needed assistance where autism was concerned. And having identified those students, we will be moving ahead in providing the required assistance to them. Again, we are not operating these measures just by chance. There have been a number of training workshops that we have exposed our teachers to that will help them in the effort at being able to attend to these children. In fact, during the July-August vacation period, 481 new teachers who will be entering the teaching service for the first time, were identified and they were trained in a series of workshops so that they could be better able to deal with disruptive behavior in the classrooms, especially that disruption that is caused by some of our children with special needs. They were also exposed to measures where they can de-escalate the challenging behaviors of some of those children, and we were able to give them some insight into some of the learning disabilities that some of our students experience. Where our school social workers are concerned, they have been able to organize training workshops. For so far, 115 of our teachers were exposed to those workshops. And they have been able to reach out to the community in meeting with the parents, because where we are concerned, this Ministry of Education, it is important for us to ensure that our parents play an important role in the education of their children. And every encouragement is given to our parents so that they can meet with our schools, with our principals, with our teachers, so they can share some of their experiences about their children. We have been looking at the curriculum in both the primary and secondary school very attentively. And in the area of our primary school, as you would know, we have been able to shape the curriculum in such a way to ensure that things like critical thinking and problem solving are key components to the teaching of our children in the primary schools. In the secondary schools, apart from the traditional subjects that are being taught, we also allow our students to be exposed to subjects like animation, robotics, agriculture, entrepreneurship, tourism, supply chain management, and a number of these new subjects so that our children will be able to keep abreast of the changes that will occur in this new dispensation. Mr. Deputy Speaker, another area of success is with the Laventille MOVA initiative. This was the brainchild of the Prime Minister after having visited the St. Barb's Government Primary School in Laventille. He thought it was important for us to pay special attention to the schools and the students in that area. 25 schools have been identified, 20 primary and 5 secondary schools. And this initiative is built on 4 major foundations or 4 major planks or 4 major initiatives. One is infrastructure and aesthetics. As you know, the saying is the working conditions of a teacher are the learning conditions of a child. We want to make sure that our schools are outfitted in such a way that our students will have some pride. And we have been able to spend some resources where this is concerned, and we are continuing to ensure that those 25 schools are fully equipped in terms of the infrastructure and aesthetics. The other plank is literacy and numeracy. And our curriculum officers have been visiting these schools on a regular basis, meeting with the teachers, in the case of the primary schools, the class teachers, and doing assessments. And in the case of the secondary schools, meeting with the subject teachers. And the information that has been fed back to us is that that initiative is gaining tremendous success. The third plank is parenting and education, and I've spoken about this. We are asking all our schools to give active encouragement to parents and the formation of parents groups, either parent-teachers associations or parent support groups, whatever name they wish to use. We are asking our parents and our teachers to be engaged in activities that will assist the children. And of course, promoting discipline. I am pleased to say that of those 25 schools, we hardly hear any complaint about indiscipline in those schools. And this is a testimony of the success of this program. Our Student Support Services Division has been conducting a number of workshops to encourage community involvement. And here's where we are gaining the support of the national community. As I speak of successes, Madam Speaker, an area of tremendous success also is in our multicultural music program unit. As the Ministry of Education, we must cater for the needs of all our students. And in the area of music and arts, the visual and performing arts, this unit has been doing a tremendous job. It is another of our success stories. In this unit, we have 50 music instructors, we have 8 district music coordinators, we have 1 project coordinator, and we have active involvement in most of the schools in Trinidad and Tobago where this is concerned. This unit is also focusing on some of our special schools. As I said before, no child will be left behind, and we realize through music, children can learn quite a great deal. One of the strong points and the strong areas of this unit is the area of PAN in schools. I have asked the coordinator to conduct a survey of all our primary schools so that we can have some information with respect to the number of schools, the number of primary schools that are equipped with steel band orchestras. The information that has come to me by way of that audit shows that there are steel pans in nearly all our primary schools and secondary schools, with the exception of 1 or 2 schools who are resisting because of religious beliefs. We can't interfere with that. But it is something that we are very happy about. And there are 348 steel orchestras in our primary schools, and we plan to extend this by 100 more in the not too distant future. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I now come to what we refer to the revolution that the world is undergoing. We are now in the digital age, and therefore information and the communication technology must assume great importance. To cater for our 21st century learners, we have embarked on a 5-star ICT program. And this program was developed almost a year ago, and already we are seeing the successes of this initiative. It is based on 5 pillars. One is the training of teachers, the pedagogical training of teachers in ICT. That is important because if we are to move forward, we have to ensure that our teachers are adequately trained. Curriculum reform to support ICT in schools, because we want to blend the ICT initiative within the curriculum, and therefore curriculum reform is important. Governance and administration, the governance structure must be of great importance, and that is another plank. We have developed an ICT policy. There was never an ICT policy before, not even with the passing out of hundreds or thousands of laptops to children. What was lacking, was surely lacking and sorely lacking, was an ICT policy. And of course, enhanced ICT infrastructure. So we want to make sure that there is the adequate infrastructure exists in our schools, the connectivity, the bandwidth, all those things that go towards making this project a success. And we are well on our way at ensuring that our schools are ready to take up the challenge of the 21st century learner. We have also provided laptops to our secondary schools, but it is the provision with a difference. Whereas before, every child was just given a laptop without any care, without anything. Laptops will remain the property of the Ministry of Education. The laptops will remain in the schools for the use of the students and the teachers. It will not be given to individual students to be used as games. Other areas where we are forging ahead, where ICT and the digital age is concerned, would be we have developed an automated payslip generation system. No longer does a teacher have to leave Miao to come to Port of Spain to get his payslip. He can apply for it online. And this is being met with tremendous satisfaction from our teachers. We have also put in place a school learning management system that involves our curriculum so that our courses and our curriculum can be accessed online. An education management information system which lends to the efficient management of the entire education sector. And Mr. Deputy Speaker, bank embassy letter generation system, when you no longer have to come to the ministry to get a letter to take to the bank or to take to the embassy. Again, you can access this online. And this has brought tremendous benefits to our teachers. And of course, the Ministry of Education is soon to embark on a school transport app to accurately track each student as he or she travels to and from school. So we will not have the confusions that sometimes arises where we don't know how we're going to pay our drivers, because sometimes there are some concerns about how many students make this trip. This is going to be done in such a way that the required information could be had almost immediately. We have been able to change the date of the essay exam, and this has a history. In 2001 to 2011, the exam was administered in the last week of the second term. From 2012, the date was changed to lower down to the third term. It was hoped that this would have benefited the students because it was argued that the students would have been given more time. This did not work well. And after consultation with the stakeholders and others, it was decided to revert to what occurred previously. And therefore, from this year, we have gone back to the exam being held on the ultimate week of the second term. Penultimate. All right. Let's look at student performance improvements. Again, when we talk about the curriculum, we talk about infrastructure, we talk about teacher training, we talk about all the things that go together at ensuring that our schools are up to standard. We must not forget our children, the students, because the major focus of education is the improvement of our students. Since we have taken office, we have noticed, because of the things that we have put in place, because of the different initiatives on which we have embarked, there has been a tremendous improvement in the performance of our students at the external examinations. In terms of the essay exam, there is a marked reduction on the number of students who have scored less than 30% in the exam. Although we are not very pleased because there are still too many of our students who are scoring less than 30%, we see that there is a tremendous improvement. And we are working towards the day when more than 90% of our children who write this exam would be able to do this creditably. In terms of the CSEC exam, 69.3% of the students who wrote the exam were able to achieve 5 or more passes. As you know, all of us know that 5 passes are what we look at, or what we would talk about as a full certificate. 69.3% of our students have been able to gain a full certificate. In terms of CAPE, 75% of the students who wrote the exam in 2019 have been successful. Let me repeat this. 75% of the students in our secondary schools who wrote the CAPE exams, they have been successful. And this is a far cry from what operated in 2015 when the figure was 68%. it shows tremendous improvement in the performance of our children. And as I said before, we have introduced new subjects like gaming and design, animation, entrepreneurship, supply chain management and logistics, tourism, and management. And our students are writing these exams at the level of CAPE. It tells us, it shows quite clearly that the education system is being kept abreast of the changes that are required for a developing country like ours. Again, when we came into office, we found that the level of waste was too high in almost every aspect of our operations. There was too much wastage. While we have upheld that government's commitment must be to provide meals to our students who are having some difficulties, we want to ensure that this is done in a manner that will suffice the needs of our students, and we want to ensure that the wastage is cut out, eliminated. Again, with the assistance of our teachers, our school supervisors, our principals, we have been able to tighten the system, and on an annual basis now we have been able to save as much as $5 million where the school feeding program is concerned. We have also renewed our agreement with PTSC so that proper checks and balances will be put in place, and we are constantly meeting with the Maxi Taxi Drivers Association to iron out all the new initiatives that we will be putting in place so that both sides will be satisfied. Where the school maxi taxi drivers, or this system is concerned, for the period September 2016 to July 2017, the cost to the government was $50,909,589.97, $50.9 million. For the period September 2017 to July 2018, the cost was brought down to $44.6 million, a saving of $6,295,787.62. Tremendous savings. Having spoken about the
Honourable Member, your initial speaking time has elapsed. You have an additional 10 minutes. Care to avail yourself?
Yes.
Kindly proceed.
Thank you very much. I'll have to go through very quickly where the tertiary education sector is concerned because I wanted to spend much more time on this sector. Our Ministry of Education has oversight directly on 3 major tertiary education institutions, and with respect to the University of the West Indies, that is a regional institution, but we provide funding in excess of $500 million a year. And because of that, we must pay some interest where that is concerned. Where the University of the West Indies is concerned, we have found that they have increased their enrollment for the 2019 to 2020 academic year, and that now stands at 17,163 students, which is a 9.4% increase in the enrollment. UWI is heavily involved in research and development, and a number of programs are put in place with respect to innovation, entrepreneurship. All these activities are working towards ensuring that, again, the university keeps abreast of all the changes that are occurring in the world today. The University of Trinidad and Tobago, which is wholly owned by the government of Trinidad and Tobago, this institution has been playing a major role in renewable energy and energy efficiency. It has embarked on Masters of Engineering in Petroleum Engineering. It offers an MSc degree in engineering, in energy engineering, certificate courses in agriculture production, a diploma in ornamental horticulture. It continues to support the work of entrepreneurs through its Business Incubator Accelerator program, and a number of memoranda of understanding has been signed with various agencies. For example, the Environmental Management Authority, the Institute of Marine Affairs, the Canadian Venture Capital Company. All an effort to ensure that our students are able to benefit. COSTAT. COSTAT continues to provide high-impact training at the certificate, diploma, advanced diploma, associate degree, and the bachelor degree programs. And programs such as computer-aided transcription, certificate in tour guiding, bachelor's in tourism, entrepreneurship, certificates in import and export management, and certificate in infirmary care. These are some of the areas that have been done. MIC, which boasts of the only education institution that is accredited by the Accreditation Council of Trinidad and Tobago for its tertiary education programs and craft undertakings. And MIC conducts 5 tertiary programs: Journeyman, the Master Craftsman, the TVEC Teacher Training Program, Engineer in Training Program, Management for TVEC Administrators. These are the regular programs that have been done, and the MIC has entered or embarked into new programs. Journeyman program in mechanical engineering with an emphasis on steel pan training. And there's a level 2 course in ultra bespoke tailoring. There's an innovation, a battery regeneration process that will allow batteries to be regenerated instead of being cast aside.
Very well done.
These are some of the areas of tertiary education. I'm sorry that time does not permit me to go into any further detail where that is concerned. But, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I cannot leave out the constituency that I'm proud to represent. And in doing so, I want to make the point from the very beginning that we have adhered to the whole government approach that we have been talking about, that this administration has been talking about. And towards this end, I want to publicly thank the Minister of Community Development and Culture because she has assisted us tremendously in the refurbishment of our community centers and in the construction of the new community center in Arima. I want to thank the Minister of Finance for providing the financial assistance so that we can do what needs to be done. The Minister of Rural Development and Local Government, because every time we run into some problems and I call upon him, he always provides that service quickly and efficiently. Recently, there was a bridge that provided or posed some problems in the Agua Santa South area extension, and he was able to work with the Ministry of Works at ensuring that that bridge was repaired. I want to thank also the Minister of Works because he has been working hard, tremendously, to assist us. A major bridge was constructed in the area of La Fillette, and that bridge is due to be opened shortly. In the area of Aripo, when one of our bridges collapsed, that threatened to cut off the community, again, we had the assistance of the Minister of Works with his team, who came quite quickly to ensure that the bridge was repaired. As I talk about my constituency, it must be known that the constituency of Arima, geographically, is very large. It extends from Lafayette, Blanchishes, Brasso Seco Paria, Aripo, Demerara, Wallerfield, and then we have the Arima Central. And I've been working with the councillors, and in particular, the mayor and councillors at the Arima Borough Council. So much so that every month we meet formally. 1 month, that meeting is hosted by the Arima Borough Council. The other month, it is hosted by me at my constituency office. And because of this, we have been able to work closely together to ensure that the amenities that are so necessary for the burgesses and the constituents of Arima are able to be provided. As a result, what we have found is most of the roads in Arima have been paved, most of the roads. We have a water problem in Arima, as I'm sure the entire country has a water problem. But again, I want to thank the Minister of Public Utilities, through WASA, because as soon as the call is made, the water truck, the vehicle that transports the water, would come to the assistance of our burgesses and our constituents. In the area of Aripo, we have had some problems with retaining walls because, as you know, in that
2 more
area,
minutes, member.
Thank you very much. In that area, we have had some movement of the earth, and again, we are working with the agencies to ensure that that matter is addressed. The Minister of Agriculture accompanied me where we visited Brasso Seco Paria. We paid a visit to Wallerfield, where we met with the farmers, and we were able to discuss land tenure, especially leases for agricultural lands. And I can tell you that the farmers are very, very happy about this. Again, in Brasso Seco Paria, we have been having close discussions almost on a weekly basis. When I go to my office, I meet a delegation of farmers from Brasso Seco Paria, where they have established a beehive industry. And that has been working very well. And in the not too distant future, Brasso Seco Paria will be providing the country with honey. We have been able to have an upgrade of the Arima market. And the market that really operates outside is soon to be covered, thanks to, again, the assistance of the Arima Borough Council. As I stated just now, the Arima Community Center is being rebuilt, and this is of tremendous importance to us. 2 schools in Arima, the Arima government, central government, and the Arima
I recognize the member for Shigona Cease.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Let me first of all thank you for allowing me the opportunity to contribute to this 2019-2020 budget debate. I want to start by congratulating our very distinguished leader of the opposition for what could only be described as an epic, comprehensive, futuristic projection of Trinidad and Tobago in the years to come. I want to also take this opportunity as they're walking in to congratulate all my colleagues for their fantastic presentations. Mr. Deputy Speaker, people think, and when they listen to us here today, they might say that we are listening to a P&M budget after 4 years. That is not so, Mr. Deputy Speaker. We are listening to a P&M budget after 9 years. You may ask me how I reached there. Well, read the manifesto, and you will see the opening statement says, we have been waiting and planning and preparing for 5 years in opposition. So 5 years in opposition, 4 years in government, and these will you be with. Well, listen, I want to describe this budget. Disappointing. Offers little hope to most. A dim future and deficit in many ways. If you ask the man in the street, go down now and take a survey on Independence Square, and you will hear what they will tell you. Ask them, what do you remember about this budget? I remember light bulb. I remember URP. I remember CPEP. But I want to tell you, the difference, and I'll give you the difference just now. I want to start off by saying why I think they are different to us. And it's a definitional difference. It is a philosophical difference. It is a policy difference. It is a program difference. It is a difference in terms of how we utilize finances and how they utilize finances. And I want to tell you, it's a wire transfer that we made. Mr. Deputy Speaker, when I did some management courses, and I had the opportunity to study in Singapore, that's why I talk about Singapore regularly, I learned that there was a sophisticated difference between a transactional leader and a transformational leader. A transactional leader is a day-to-day leader where you expect the followers to follow you blindly. A transformational leader is Mrs. Kamla Persad Sessa. Futuristic, developmental, and progressive. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I really thought, well, I see both of them gone. The two persons who I want to talk to, they just exited. The member from Moruga, Tableland, a minister in the ministry.
That's a stepchild.
Honorable, please, members, member for Siparia, please. Right, I'd like to hear the discourse of the member. And again, members, right, we know of the thumping of the desk, the added voice tones. Please, keep it minimal. Proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I was just going to remind all of us what he said. He is the self-professed stepchild of the Minister and Ministry of Education. So I came prepared. I was waiting. You could imagine my situation, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Look how long I waited to talk. I didn't know why I waited so long. Because the largest slice of the budget from the Minister of Finance, $7.548 billion went to education. And the Minister of Education not here. And the Minister in the Ministry of Education not here. I was going to talk a little bit, but I'm trying to figure out, as former Minister of Tertiary Education, what I should talk about. So I'll make some comments after. I want to say I take great offense this evening. I want to take great offense for some of the things that the Minister of Education spoke about of my very distinguished colleague, a high-performing ministry, a high-performing minister, and significant achievements under Dr. Tim Gopis, led by our very distinguished then Prime Minister, Mrs. Bisesa. And I want to describe the tenure of Dr. Gopis and the Ministry of Education and Tertiary Education under Mrs. Bisesa as unprecedented achievements in the history of Trinidad and Tobago. I just want to give you one or two examples. You could imagine that the Ministry of Education now, we're talking about student support services. I will come to some of the things just now. But I just want to remember them and say them now. You could imagine that in terms of student support services, what we are seeing is, we had launched 2 buses, state-of-the-art buses. To do what? To assist young boys and girls students in terms of their future career path. They were called the Jobs and Career Coaches. launched by our Prime Minister at that time. You know what happened to them? I hear the Minister of Agriculture come yesterday in this house and talking about he going to open a farmer's market at Woodford Lodge in Chagonas. Well, when you go to the farmer's market, you will see opposite over the road, if you look westward,
That's right.
you'll see 2 jobs and career coaches pack up. And the difference is, and I'll tell you what, they're not working. But guess why they're not working? One of the bus, power steering, 10,000 to fix. Next one of the bus, transmission down. I want to tell you the difference. The P&M talks and the UNC works. We would have take money and find that money, or if we didn't have the money, if things were difficult, we'd have find benefactors in the community who would have helped to fix those buses and get them on the road, get them moving. I want to tell you, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I want to say some of the things on behalf of my colleague. But I'll talk about my area a little later on, because they hardly give me anything to say. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the member for Arima, Minister of Education, he said, and I quote, "I have a feeling of sadness. A feeling of sadness came to me when he heard the contribution of my colleague." You know, Mr. Deputy Speaker, a feeling of sadness come to me too. When I listened to that contribution that I waited 2 days for, or 3 days for, I feel so sad because the member could have really tell me, why you don't read my speech from last year? You won't have to listen to nothing new. It's the same thing. And as Mr. Manning used to say, how you going to do that? You shouldn't do that. Not to we. There's a country in the waiting for a new government to take us forward. And it will be the UNC. I feel that feeling of sadness today when I listen to my colleague. I feel a sense of sadness for teachers. I feel a sense of sadness for students. I feel a sense of sadness for parents. I feel a sense of sadness for my country, because I know we should be up in the World Economic Forum in terms of competitiveness. And you know, my friend came to talk about ICT. I want to tell you about ICT. Last year, I gave him a little homework reading. I want to give him another homework reading, the member for Arima, and maybe the member for Moruga Tableland. We are talking about the digital revolution. That's what he is saying. That's what the member is saying. Well, the book he must read is by Charles Schwab, The Fourth Industrial Revolution. Read it. Don't come and tell us here about what you are doing or what you're doing. You want to have, the member want to have the Industrial Revolution. You could Google it and buy the book too. And I want to tell you something. I want to give him the book free. I want to give him the book.
Again, members, please. Proceed.
And maybe, and Mr. Deputy Speaker, you're not reading the book. Because if he was reading the book, he wouldn't come and say some of these things. Hear what he's saying in a recent event on Saturday at Supper. I have the article here, but I remember it. He says that he's telling the SEA students, the first 200 students, the SEA students, don't worry about the pronunciation. Just make sure you get the message. As a matter of fact, I want to tell you what some of them on the other side do, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I have a slogan: you major in minors. See the big picture. And you know what he said to the students? He said to the students that by the time you're ready to write CSEC, you'll be doing CSEC online. But guess what? What have you done with the laptops? We provided laptops, thousands of laptops. I have the figures here. But you know what? Again, we'll describe that as P&M talks, UNC works. There are some schools, I think I better follow my little script here, you know. Because there are some schools that we are talking, and I'm not reading a speech like some others. I know this work. You can't challenge me in education. I know this work. And the only thing my friend opposite want to hear just someone else is about the CVQ, and I'll talk about that. The Caribbean Vocational Qualification. But let me tell you, you do an assessment. The member for Arima is saying, the digital revolution. Find out how many schools in this country, primary and secondary, have full efficiency, capacity, working computer labs. None. He's criticizing, he's saying that we didn't have a laptop policy. I want to tell you, I worked with my very distinguished colleagues. I was a member of that committee for laptops. And we had policies in place. We had all the officials of the ministry. But I want to tell you something. You see, you talk about a reading book. I'll give you a next book to read just now. But the book you should be reading as well is the One World Open Schoolhouse by Salman Khan, not the actor from Mumbai. And then you will understand the value and the importance of digital revolution. That is called flipping the classroom. And when you now tell a child, I'm giving you no more laptops, you'll use the computer in the classroom. What are you telling that child in terms of the SBA at home? What are you telling that child about discovery learning? What are you telling that child about the different forms of assessment, whether they be summative or whether they be benchmark? But you see, they don't know. So they don't know what to do. They just come here and talk. What do you tell a child in a home that has a laptop with parents or other children or siblings who want to learn? Is that what you are denying? Barbados, long before I said, a laptop and a computer in every household. What do you tell a child who wants to pursue a different career? And I will tell you again, the difference is the PNM talks, the UNC works. You can imagine, somebody said, one of the members across the table said, they heard the name of the book before. But you know, we tired here about Tunapunda Government Primary School on the PBR. Say something new now. But let me just tell you some of the things that under Dr. Gopi Singh we did. Laptop initiative. Approximately 95 laptops provided to students, forms 1 to 5. 95,000 laptops. 95,000 laptops.
You're right. Go on.
Ensuring ICT. Infusion with the curriculum. I want to ask the question, how many of us have sat here and listened to presentations from the member for Arima, Honorable Minister of Education? How many times have we heard about e-books? I ask the question, where are the e-books? And as I'm talking about books, I want to also ask the question, what is happening to the textbook rental program? You have allocated $2.5 million in the secondary schools. Mr. Deputy Speaker, you look at parents these days for the opening of the new academic year. Anytime you hear they have free books given anywhere, they're going with the book list. Why? 63,000 people in this country have lost their jobs. People can't afford to buy food. We're talking about deflation, inflation, unemployment. We're talking about I am telling you this. I have never seen so many people in front of their homes, putting a little table, opening a car trunk, having a mobile van to sell things, to earn a decent living. Why do you think they're doing that? Because they have money? They're doing that because they are no work. And I want to say something about the tertiary sector, and I'm refusing it, because I have plenty to talk about now. My time could be the problem. I want to tell the Minister of Education today and his colleague, the time has come for you to do a program audit of all the programs in the tertiary sector. And you will find out, like at UTT, there are 3 persons in a classroom. People learning music. We are paying gate for that. You will find that many people are coming out of these institutions. He talks about 16,000 in UWI. 4,123 persons from UWI alone will graduate within the next month or so. And the question is what you're going to do with them. You feel by giving them a 10% increase as OJTs go solve their problem? You have destroyed the OJT program in terms of OJT sectoral. We continue to see the mismatch of skills between what the economy requires and what you are turning out. Where is the sustainability of these young people who want to have a family? And some of these OJTs are married and have children, you know. But the difference is the PNM talks, the UNC works. The Minister of Education talks about ICT teachers education. That's not happening today. That's happening since I was a teacher at Caprichama Senior Comprehensive School. And it happened more when I was the CEO of NTA, the National Training Agency. And under us, during Mrs. Bissesa's tenure, we have trained thousands of teachers at the National Energy Skills Center in ICT. I want to ask the government, and I want to ask the minister, how much money have you allocated for ICT upgrade in schools? You have some there. He talks about other programs that are being looked at and, in fact, being done right now. He talks about the Morvan Laventil School Improvement Project. I am happy for those people. But you know how much money is allocated there? $15 million in 2020. And I asked the question here of the minister during the Finance Committee last year. I said, why don't you consider some other areas? Will you consider enterprise? He says, yes. Enterprise, I get $1. But I'll come to some of my matters in the school system just now. I want to also indicate that in terms of the computer labs, under Dr. Gopi Singh, we had 4,000 laptops, 4,000 given to teachers, principals, and school supervisors. So it wasn't only about the schools. Computer labs have been provided in each of the 125 secondary and over 337 primary schools in Trinidad and Tobago. The PNM talk, this is the work of the UNC. As a matter of fact, we have in Trinidad and Tobago, under Dr. Gopi Singh, was a regional center for virtual educa in Latin America and the Caribbean. And don't talk about the ECC programs. It has been much touted and popularized when he met with Mrs. Hillary Clinton in Washington. As a matter of fact, the strongest amount of programs you see and the progression of the young children, we would have seen a multitude of ECCE centers throughout Trinidad and, of course, in Tobago. That is the foundation. You're talking about daycare now. We have no problem with daycare, but I hope you put daycare now in the Education Act, because what you have done, you have gone backwards. So you have daycare, ECC, primary, secondary, tertiary. That is what we have to look at. As a matter of fact, when you look at the curriculum, he's talking about the productivity. He's talking about progression. He's talking about the results. If you wanted to see the results, you have to look at PISA. PISA, the Program for International Students Assessment. And that will tell you where we stand. It will tell you where we stand also in terms of the whole competitiveness of our country. There are 3 countries in the world that continue to top the world in global innovation competitiveness: Sweden, Switzerland, Singapore. But you know what? Singapore, you don't like to hear it, they don't like to hear it. Singapore got political independence 3 years after us. We were in 1962, under Lee Kuan Yew, 1965. Look where they are. Look where we are. And I want to tell you something. When we return to government under Mrs. Bissessa, we are going to continue the trajectory for developing the competitiveness of Asia. The PNM talks and the UNC works. We have been talking, I spoke a little bit about the CXC. You know, Mr. Deputy Speaker, one of the things that irks me as a teacher, a former teacher, is the scrapping of the CAC. I'm sure nobody on that side knows what CAC means. If you know, stand up and tell me.
All of them were sitting.
And it's not the CARICOM and whatever American games or whatever it is. I want to tell you what CAC is. Caribbean Central America. The CAC has to do with continuous assessment component. In terms of school management, in terms of classroom management, in terms of clinical supervision, in terms of ensuring that we have the level of learning outcomes, assessment and teaching is the bedrock of the education system. And what you have done is that you have destroyed that, you have removed the CSEs. And that was an important component to increase and improve the performance in the primary school. I want to also say that Yes, Mr. Deputy Speaker. What I'm hearing across there is one of the members saying that the parents used to do his work when he was. So, improving academic performance, improving the infrastructure in schools, and I want to read. Over the last 5 years, we have constructed 28 new primary schools, 57 ECC centers, and 8 secondary schools, including Marabella, Arangwell, Scoover West, and Princestown East. The total number of schools constructed, 93. And I want to tell you, Dr. Gobi Singh has reminded me at the end of 2014, the difference is PNM talks, UNC works. The honorable member was just saying, he was just talking about curriculum reform. Curriculum reform. And I want to ask the question, do we have sufficient curriculum officers and sufficient guidance officers that visit our schools? And the answer is no. As a matter of fact, I want to tell you, Mr. Deputy Speaker, when you look at any secondary school, like a senior com, for example, you'll see 2 flat buildings. One will be called Block A, the other will be called Block O. Those are the technical vocational wings of the schools. And my information is, as people retire from the tech voc wings, they're not replacing those teachers. And even where you have those teachers, you don't have consumables, whether it's auto mechanics, masonry, carpentry, plumbing, welding, all of these. And you want to tell me that you are in the digital revolution? Maybe you are. That is why you have nobody teaching. You expect people to do the work on their own. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I want to also, the Minister of Education also made mention of school transport. We saw school transport bus providers protesting for their monies. Protesting for their monies. And I asked the question today, do you have monies outstanding for the school transport bus drivers? And if so, when are you going to pay them? And I raise that in the, and I'll tell you what. And I'll tell you what else I want to ask about.
Hold on, 1 second. Member for Laventille West and member for Naparima, please. I mentioned earlier the crosstalk and the comments within the chamber. Proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I was talking about another area where the Honorable Minister said that he was saving $5 million annually in what? The school feeding program, which is called the National Dietary Services Company Limited. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I want to tell you, as a former teacher, there were times that you will not see students coming to school because they were unable to provide monies, their parents, with transport. But on the days when they knew that you would get a meal, a breakfast or lunch, the class was filled. I think we have returned to some of those days now. And I ask the question, because the Honorable Minister of Finance knows what I'm going to be talking about here, the VAT payment and the given amnesty. I am telling you here from first-hand knowledge, a lot of these contractors in the school feeding program cannot afford to pay their bills. They cannot afford to pay their VAT. And when they're looking for the VAT refund, they're coming. So their cash flow is being severely affected. So this is not only about running programs for school children. Why are you suffering the children? Pay these contractors the VAT returns. Let them run the programs efficiently. Make sure that we have good school diets and we'll have a healthy nation. And this is the difference between the PNM talking and the UNC working. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I just want to make some comments about what the Honorable Minister said while he was speaking. Minister made brief reference to the tertiary sector. And he said he used the terms program hopping. Well, if I could tell you one thing, I feel so elated and delighted that he was listening to when I was speaking as minister. And a program hopper, in case you don't know, because I ain't sure if he knows, the minister, is a person who goes and engages in a GATE program in the day and does another one in the evening. And we had stopped that because we started and we launched the Edu ID GATE card. And you had to clock in. And I was even going to put a situation in place where you're also going to have like GATE auditors. Because there's wastage. And that is what we met. But I want to tell you what else. Somebody talking, I just heard somebody say about thief. That might be a good word to use, so I'm not going to use it. But I want to tell you in terms of wire transfer and the money going other places, I want to tell you about another thing. One of the things that this Ministry of Education has done is to discontinue the FASP. What is that? The Financial Assistance Studies Program. Who was that for? That was for students who were unable to continue their education, particularly in their final years, be they here in Trinidad and Tobago, in the region, or abroad. And you know, that has now been disbanded. And we used to help people. You could have gotten up to $50,000 in a grant, not to repay, to ensure that you could buy your books, you could pay your rent, you could pay the transport, and you could make sure you complete your education. But I want to tell you what happened. I want to remind those of you who are talking about using that other word. There was a certain prime minister who passed a note to a former minister and said, I would like you to help this person, but the note read, keep this quiet. And you know something? After that, when I saw that and I became minister, I launched some inquiries into that program. And we have a report that speaks about the misuse and the abuse of the FASP. That was stopped under our administration. I want to also indicate, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that the Honorable Minister came here today to remind us that the now Ministry of Education is an amalgam of three ministries: the Ministry of Science and Technology, the Ministry of Tertiary Education, and the Ministry of Education. I now realize how things not going so good in that Ministry of Education. Because the amalgam of all of these three, and you have two ministers, clearly it is above the level of competence for them to run efficiently. Mr. Deputy Speaker, we heard about special needs students. I asked the question, my colleague brought a motion here, and I was part of that debate on ADHD and ADD, attention disorder deficit. And I asked the question, how many teachers do we have in the Ministry of Education who are competently certified and trained, or trained and certified, to handle these cases? He said there are over 238 cases of autism. How many persons? How many of those? 245. And you cannot train teachers just in a workshop. You can't take a teacher who is a specialist in a curriculum area like mathematics or English or history or geography and tell them, go to a workshop and come back and deal with these special needs students. That is not how it works. And that is the difference between the PNM talking and the UNC how it works. If I were to suggest and advise, and if I were there, one of the things I will ensure, I will ask our higher education institutions like UTT, like UWI, like COSTAT, and also the University of the Southern Caribbean to come up with a curriculum, to come up with a degree program for special education and special needs. You can't do that in a workshop over 2 and 3 days. I want to also talk about, the minister mentioned.
I've given you a certain leeway, but the word he, the pronoun he, please, even though I know you are using it interchangeably.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. The Honourable Member, Honourable Minister, made mention of learning enhancement centres. Do you know what is a learning enhancement centre? Well, as a matter of fact, every school is supposed to be a learning enhancement centre. But a learning enhancement centre is where the minister has identified some schools. For example, in the Caroni Education District, the Couva West Secondary School, which used to be called the Couva Junior Secondary School, is used as a learning enhancement center. Do you know who they send there? The students who are on suspension, indiscipline, they go to that facility. And afterwards, they return to school. You have some teachers who may be supervising them. And the question is, where is the follow-up after these students return to school? And the reason is that while you may have some of that program in place as follow-up, I am making the statement again. I am talking from experience. You do not have timetabled in the secondary schools from which these students originated. You don't have remedial classes for them. I can tell you that there should be no contradiction about that, because I just looked at a timetable about 2 days ago at Caprichema Senior. There are no classes for remediation in the secondary school. You might have remediation programs, but they're not timetabled. And therefore, again, that is something that we have to look at. I want to also tell you, we had a unit called the Life Skills Unit. I was going to make that mandatory. We're working with Dr. Gopi Singh to make sure we have the Life Skills Unit as part of the curriculum in all schools, primary, secondary, and of course the tertiary. What that would have done, there are many students in our system who are unable to cope with various issues and problems. You would have less of people being taken out of school on suspension and sent to the learning enhancement centers if you had the life skills curriculum properly done. And these teachers could be trained at the training institutions, in teacher training, wherever it is. All you have to do is to include the life skills program or the component as part of the degree in education or their postgraduate, as I have, a postgraduate and diploma in education administration. And therefore, these are some of the things. These are easy things to do, but you have to have the will. I want to also make mention of the fact that the Honorable Minister, Member Farima, talk about school social workers. Talk about guidance officers and talk about school social workers. I ask the question, is there a school social worker in every school, and particularly every secondary school in this country? Sure. And if there is not a school social worker, what do you have? You have roving school social workers, like you have roving guidance officers. Now, a guidance officer is different to a guidance counselor. Let me make that distinction for those who don't know and who pretend to know education. The guidance officer is really involved in career guidance. The guidance counselor is really involved in behavioral issues. Right? So you can't muddy up this thing. You are playing with people's lives, people's children. And therefore, I want to ask the question. Again, and the minister said that we have workshops for these persons. Again, this is not a workshop situation. You can't take a teacher out and send them on a workshop. What you have, why don't you consider using the graduates of our universities with degree in social work and have them do a component of education while they're pursuing their 3-year degree in these higher education institutions, so that when they come out and when you are screening them and when you are sending them for interviews at the Teaching Service Commission, they'll be competently trained in education and social work. Why don't you have that?
Too bright for that.
I am kind of tired of listening to these things. It might be important, but it is so repetitive. And he says it all the time, the Honorable Member for Arima. He says, teachers attend workshops. And what they do, we have been looking at curriculum, critical thinking, problem solving. Well, that didn't just start yesterday. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the Honorable Member, the Minister of Education, in his contribution here this evening, spoke about new areas that have been pursued at the Cape level. And he gave some examples: animation, robotics, supply chain management. I want to ask the Honorable Member, the Minister, my colleague, my friend, how many schools in this country, how many schools are doing these subjects at the Cape level? And if they're not doing it, why? And when they finish do this and they pass it at the Cape level, which is the degree program they're going into at our institutions of higher learning? Where's the continuity? Where's the future? And I also want to ask him, If you are saying that people are doing these subjects, and this is a digital revolution, what has happened in terms of the national scholarships? The national scholarships, have you diversified or transformed the different disciplines that you want to give scholarships to? I want to ask you, Mr. Deputy Chair, I want to ask the honorable member, when last have you changed the normal offerings of the scholarships? Be they additional scholarships or open scholarships? And the point I also want to make about scholarships is that we have had a history, and I could give the figures from Dr. Gopi Singh of how many scholarships we would have awarded. But one of the most important things that we are doing, and I'm saying this here today, and I'd like anybody to refute me, otherwise produce the evidence. The last time that a national needs list was done in Trinidad and Tobago was via the government of the People's Partnership in the year 2015. So you want to talk about the revolution in education. Those are words that don't just happen like that. As a matter of fact, I want to also indicate that the Honourable Minister, the member, in making his contribution, spoke about parenting and promoting discipline, and he boasted that the amount of indiscipline has been substantially reduced. Well, if that is the data and we have the evidence, the empirical evidence to see it, it's something very good. But I want to ask the question. This figure that you are quoting of less than 1%, are these matters that have been referred to the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service from the schools? Or are there matters of indiscipline in the schools that are not being reported? And as a matter of fact, if you don't believe me, Mr. Deputy Speaker, let us find out about the amount of bullying that takes place. Bullying is a form of violence and indiscipline in schools. So this 1%, while it looks very attractive, and we commend if that is the case, and we'd like to see the empirical data, I want to know, because as a former dean as well of a secondary school, I would have had to interface with the principal on certain occasions to call in the police to deal with certain matters. I want to also make mention of what the honourable member indicated would be a student performance and the focus on education. My colleague from Arima said, and I want to quote him, he said the major focus of education is our children. I believe that too. And he also made mention of the fact that a good environment for teachers will give you a good student. Well, I want to ask my colleague, the member for Arima, Minister of Education, what is happening to the Carpichama AC school? Where are the students from that school as we speak? Where are they housed? Why have they been removed? How are they going to the place of where they're attending the school now? I want to ask the other question. Why I am seeing as well in the draft estimates, that there's a certain allocation for school improvement, construction or outfitting. But I want to ask the question, do you have money there for the Reform Hindu School? I want to ask the question, do you have money there for the Pre-Sal Government School?
Good question.
I want to ask the question, do you have money for the Princeton Presbyterian School?
Good question.
I want to ask the question, do you have monies allocated in there for a school in my constituency? When we demitted office in 2015, you are on record as saying in this parliament that the school was 99% completed. And 4 years now, you can't complete 1%, the Egypt Oasis Primary School. And that's the difference. That's the difference, because the difference is the PNM talks and the UNC works. I ask the question again. Why are you refusing to open the Das Trace Early Childhood Care and Education Center in Enterprise? What is it about Enterprise? Why are you disenfranchising people's education in the village in which they live and have them to commute to other places. The time has come, and I want to put my colleague, the Minister of Education, on notice. You told us and you promised us that by or before the 31st of December 2019, you will open that school, and we look forward to the opening of that school this year. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I want to also now take a little time to mention some of the matters with respect to the budget that I would have been prepared to speak on substantially, and also some aspects of tertiary education. As I indicated, when you look at if you take a survey, one of the highlights of the 2020 PNM budget is free light bulbs. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I take this opportunity today on this floor as I stand to warn the population of Trinidad and Tobago, when you take them light bulbs, God forbid, you will have to pay increased electricity rates. You never know how it works. That is how it goes. They give you with one hand and they take back with the next hand. Light bulbs in exchange for higher electricity rates. After 4 years of the PNM being in charge, what do we have? We have a crashing economy, a shooting crime rate, a failing education system, an ailing health sector, a dying agricultural sector, a downsizing manufacturing sector, a dropping technology sector, and contracting construction sector that is failing. And amidst all of this, you know what is the most difficult thing, Mr. Deputy Speaker, for me to sit here? Amidst all of this, the PNM laughs, grins, gives high fives, and joke in this chamber while citizens are suffering and citizens are losing their jobs. The PNM does that while the PNM works for the people of this country. The UNC will work for the people of this country. I want to tell you, the PNM talks, the UNC works. I want to continue with some of the things. Mothers cannot afford, Mr. Deputy Speaker, to buy baby milk. In fact, some of the people, we would have read in the newspapers that some persons are caught red-handed and have to appear in court to do what? Stealing baby milk. Under Mrs. Prasad Bisesa, we had the baby grant. When you came into office, you removed it. And that's one of the major differences. You talk about you care, but I think we care more for the people of this country than you could ever believe. Fathers cannot afford to get textbooks for their own children, far less laptops. Children are dying in our hospitals. You don't like to hear that. But as I talk about hospital, I want to tell you, you could call the Couva Hospital whatever you want. You could call it how much facility. In the eyes of the people of this country, they will always remember Mrs. Prasad Bisasa and the Couva Children's Hospital. Mr. Deputy Speaker, as I'm talking about the Couva, which is now called the Couva Hospital, and the multi-training facility, I want to ask the question, and I want to ask the Minister of Education to remember these questions. No, I'm asking the question. All I'm saying is that, yes, the PNM, somebody said that they might work, but you work who? You work against the people of this country. Let me make that very clear. And I was going to ask the question. You have now said that the University of the West Indies St. Augustine campus will be responsible for 51% of the shares in that Couva Children's Hospital or Couva Hospital and multi-training facility. I want to tell you this, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and you might not know, and I don't know if anybody else will know unless you see.
Your initial speaking time has elapsed. You have an additional 10. Care to avail yourself?
Yes, Mr.
Proceed.
I just want to tell you, I want to ask the question, and I was going to say, and we have people, Mr. Deputy Speaker, we have people here who sat in the cabinet under Mrs. Bisasa, and Mrs. Bisasa will tell you when Dr. Khan was the Minister of Health. Every time Dr. Khan brought a note to the cabinet for the approval for the construction of a hospital, I was there to ask Dr. Khan to allow us to put into that note that all the hospitals will have a teaching facility at home. And I thank Mrs. Bissessa for that. So when you come and you change in a multi-training, that didn't happen by guess. You didn't invent that. You copied that from the cabinet minute. And that is how, just as how you copy, you take the dollar for dollar program. At that time, we have here, the member for Chaguanas West. He was the minister in charge when I was NTA. And he was the Minister of Human Development, Youth and Culture. And with Dr. Tiwari as the principal of the University of the West Indies, under Mr. Pandey, you started dollar for dollar. You had no idea about tertiary education. But what did you do? You see a horse, you jump on it, you start to ride, and you giddy up. And what you giddy up to? You giddy up and call it gate. And now when you're going through the gate, you want to close the gate for the people of this country. And I asked the question, and I'm asking the question for the record and answer today. I want to know whether the University of the West Indies, I want to tell you this. I have no problems and no objections with the University of the West Indies being a part of any medical training facility. I support it, but I asked the question, where did this instruction or request come from to convert the Couva Hospital to a multi-training facility with UWI? Who it is give the okay to exchange, have a debt swap of $200 million. What is that $200 million about? Is that money you owe them for gate? Do you know if the University of the West Indies and Augustine have enough money to run right through? Do we have a deficit? So you just give them with one hand and you take with the next hand. That is what I'm saying. You work, we work for the people, you work against the people. And I asked the question, and I have seen the question on the record, because the minister knows what I'm talking about when I say it now. Did that facility have the approval of the FNGPC of the campus in St. Augustine? Did it have the FNGPC of the University of the West Indies? I attended the regional meetings. And let me take a little sip of water before I ask this question. I want to ask the question, whether the approval to have the University of the West Indies have a debt swap or a participation in the facility at Couva for $200 million, whether that had the approval of the highest authority of the University of the West Indies, which is called the Council of UWI, which is chaired by the Chancellor of the University. And I want them to answer those questions, because if you do not answer those questions properly, what may have happened? You might have gotten a telephone request to somebody. We want you to have that facility changed. I want to tell you about the other facility. The Minister of Health said you'll now have Mount Hope for medical training, you'll now have Couva for medical training, and you'll have penal labor for medical training. I asked the question, why you are worrying about penal labor for medical training? I'm not against it. I'm supporting, but I want to ask you the question. There was a sign at the San Fernando General Hospital under the chairmanship of Dr. Bodo. It is outfitted. It has classrooms, state of the art. It was called the San Fernando Teaching Hospital. Under Mrs. Bissessa, she opened it. And that is the difference with us and you. You talk, we work. You want to go and open, you will not open the penal labor campus. For 4 years, you did nothing to open it. And I want to tell you something. Had we been there, that would have been open for the latest in 2016. You open it. And when you come back, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I'll invite you as well. I hope to be there. I hope to be there. I hope to be there to the opening of the new penal labor campus.
Silence.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I want to tell you what else I want to open formally. I would like to open formally something they don't like to hear. They don't like the slogan. For the first time in the history under Mrs. Bissessa of this part of the world, we opened the first aviation campus at Camden. And as long as I live in this earth, the phrase will be with me, from cotton cane to flying plane. They couldn't believe, and I want to tell you that some of the most responsive programs, what has become the cash cow And as a matter of fact, we'll check and see whether the private jet will take off or land from Camden. Because it has no lights down there. So you want to know if you take off and land the private jet over there. Mr. Deputy Chairman, I want to tell you something. The UTT Aviation Campus has become the cash cow for UTT. On the 21st of August, Mr. Deputy Chairman, the Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Deputy Speaker, Honorable Prime Minister went to UTT O'Meara. Hear what the Honorable Prime Minister said. It is reported in the newspaper. I am pleased to see that we have moved to the rank of number 35 out of 134 countries in the tertiary enrollment in the world. The data, the statistics, the World Competitiveness Report. And I want to tell you something, Mr. Deputy Speaker. That had nothing to do with the Prime Minister, except that he announced it. That happened under our watch. From 2010 to 2015, and when I became minister, the tertiary sector, you know, the Honorable Minister of Finance is just laughing at something, so I just want to remind him about something he said. I go pull out the book for you. Let me pull out the book for you. And Mr. Deputy Chairman, we moved the participation rate in the tertiary sector to never before, to 65.24%. But I don't want to show it, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I will read. Can I read it? I want to read it in the few minutes I have. I want to read it from 42% in 2010 to 65.24% in 2015. But you know, there was a prime minister who used to say, "Who the gods wish to destroy, they first make mad." I just want to read something so you could decide the sanity of the person. And I'm reading. CBQ, I'll talk about CBQ. Wire transfer, CBQ, sorry.
Remember, you have 2 more minutes.
2 more minutes. Well, look, I have 2 more minutes to read this, because this is important. Before we engage in putting on a program for CVQ for wire transfer, let me read this. Since the early 2000s, sustained public investment in early childhood care and education, vocational education, and skills training, primary, secondary, and tertiary education has yielded, this is the Minister of Finance, has page 54, last paragraph, yielded high rates of enrollment and access across all education levels. This is the part I love. Importantly, our expenditures on tertiary education and skills training are more than double the average for regional countries. And hear what he say here. And we are advancing our goals of achieving a 60% tertiary enrollment rate. All you like to go back. Mr. Deputy Speaker, this is the government in reverse. We are the government in forward movement. The PNM talks and the UNC works. As I conclude, I just want to say, what we have seen here is not a democracy. We have seen the development of an oligarchy in Trinidad and Tobago, the control of a few to the many of this country. And Mr. Deputy Speaker, as I conclude, and my time is almost up, I want to say, I want to congratulate the member for Siparafia, still in contribution. And I want to say that when we return in the not too distant future, I hope I'll be there to continue this progression in education. Because why? And why will we do that? And we will develop more CVQs so that the member for Aruka could come. And therefore, as I conclude, I want to say the PNM talks, the UNC works. Thank you very much.
Honorable members, again, at this time, we will suspend for tea. But before, again, I know we have had a long day, and certain members are sitting with their backs to the chair, right? I didn't call out anyone, but there are a couple members who have been sitting with their backs to the chair. So again, please remember it's a standing order, so let's abide. All right, so we'll suspend now and we'll resume at 6:45.